you see us online? There we go. All right, thank you. Welcome,
What's
welcome,
up?
welcome.
What's up with you?
That was the weirdest.
Let's
Let's
start
go.
over. Let's start over.
Okay, let's
Ready?
start again.
Go.
Hey, welcome
What's
back.
happening? What's happening?
Oh my God, we had Marquita's not here today. Marquita's not here today, so her support team member, our famous loved one Josh,
Josh.
was being too technical, and so he was telling us a whole bunch of details that I probably didn't need to know besides go. But anyway, we're here, and a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah.
I'll give you some new tools this week also too. But before we get into anything, I want to share today I had a good day. I sat with a community leader who's now 80 years of age by the name of Arnold Perkins for about 3 hours. And we had a great conversation, and I just wanted to share a couple of those small things that he said. Is everything okay? Okay. I wanted to share a couple of small things that were mentioned by Mr. Perkins. And Mr. Perkins said one thing. He said, you have, I look at your hand. And as you look at the hand, he was saying that, I have 5 fingers. And if you wanted to break each one of those fingers independently, it's relatively easy. And what he says, but if those 5 fingers want to become stronger, once you close them, it's harder to break them. And what he was highlighting was how the division and how black folks are actually sitting on islands, right? Like we're by ourselves, business-wise. And his whole point was, that individually we're fragile. But as we come together and just share information, it doesn't have to be that come together to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but just come together and share information, share ideas, expand our thoughts together. It makes us a much stronger unit. And one of his arguments is that one of the things that was really plaguing black folks as a community is we were too disjointed. You know what I mean? Like we were too busy focusing on I as opposed to we, or we were running our businesses as entrepreneurs extremely disjointed. Like there's no reason in the world black entrepreneurs shouldn't be talking. There's just almost no reason, but yet it's a common accepted norm for black entrepreneurs not to talk. Oh shit, Tone Vic walked up in here with swag. I don't even know how to respond to this moment. But anyway, so it was just amazing to it's amazing. That was one of the concepts. The other concept he said was, I'm gonna tease since Tone Vic just walked in here. I said, Tone Vic, you're a light bulb, floor, and a ceiling. Tone showed no response. Tone, you a bitch-ass, punk-ass motherfucker. Why did he show response? Because both of those ideas are just as ludicrous. Just how you're not a wall, a light bulb, and a ceiling, yet why did you respond to something that you absolutely know you're not? Tone know he's not no, whatever I just said. I just ran as fast as I could come off my head. But all those words I use, he goes, at some point we have to start asking ourselves, why do things, when people call us certain names that we're not, why do we give it so much credibility? Because if I walked around and tell everybody, that, hey man, you're a ceiling wall and a branch of a tree, they were like, what? And keep walking. But if I turn around to that same person in the social justice age and say, you're a soft ass, bitch ass, weak ass, punk ass, impotent ass, N-word, they would go, nah, you gave it meaning. Because honestly, both ideas was just as ludicrous. And so I thought that was pretty dope that we, the way he framed that. I thought his framing was absolutely amazing. Other thing I want to talk about real quick is the retreat's coming up. So make sure you're in contact with Marquita about if you're going to participate in a retreat. Once again, let me remind you, the retreat is going to be focused around depression and trauma. And I know many of you don't believe you're dealing with neither one. But if you are people that grew up in poor neighborhoods, poverty, black, brown, you experience some either depression or trauma. It's more common than you realize. And so the whole weekend we're gonna work on that as well as our relationship building and try to make some fun stuff in there. I'm hoping this year no more than 15 sign up because that gives us more room to even do a deeper dive, have some fun, and play some games at night. And even if good hip hop song come on, watch this brother right here go right back to East Oakland with all of his dance moves. This brother loves hip hop, and so yeah. So when it comes, if a good song comes on and he likes, he'll probably know the words, and you'd be like, yeah, he's from Oakland. So hopefully, those of you who are interested in the retreat, like I told you guys, it's going to be at a remote location. That includes food, training sessions, bedding. Pretty much all you need to bring is some sweat clothes and some tennis shoes. And I'm talking about plenty of drinks, plenty of food. Everything is included in the experience. So those of you who are interested in retreat, just make sure you sign up. Also, don't forget we have the whole clothing online. That's still online. So those of you, we have a lot of new students. And so the clothing that we're wearing, this is sold online. It was designed by Court Smith, who's sitting next to me, the famous Court Smith. He's right here. But he designed the clothing. It was an honor. I just recently, when he has a grand opening coming up next month, a new store, right? And he has a big grand opening coming. And I already pre-purchased me a piece because it was, man, I'm sorry, but Court Smith, it's like I love Adidas, I like Puma, I like some Nike new stuff, but what they're all missing is a black swag. And what I think about Court Smith stuff is that you get that high-end design, but there's some cultural swag in that, but he sprinkles it. You know what I mean? He doesn't pour it on it, so you feel like you're just getting 20 years of pro-black branding. I'll just go by real quick. But what you feel like you're getting is you feel like our culture is seasoned into his design. Although he's true to the sport, which is, he created his business because he cared about black kids and black youth, and he was close to AAU, and then as he got into that, it gave him the ability to build a product that allowed him to grow his company, but also to kind of to move within his mission. And so you feel that in his design. So it doesn't feel like you got to see his clothes, man. Once you see him, it's just sick. So those of y'all who haven't got a chance to check out Court Smith, make sure you check it out. And this is not he doesn't even know I was going to say this.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
But I'm a deep fan of his work. Every time I see his stuff, I'm like, damn, if black people own Adidas, this is what it would look like. Like, it just has a whole different swag to it. And then his love for basketball as well. You see those two ideas marry so cold. And so I picked up something from his Hydra collection. If he runs out, that's good because that means I can selfishly have my own piece. But his shit is high, and the quality is there too. Some of us wear, and I'm going to say this as a side note, some of us wear dashikis and African clothing and so forth and so on because we want to be closer to feeling like we're black, right? We'll wear mud cloths, and we might even wear something from East Africa or South Africa, traditional. But we forget to celebrate the African right here, and even the African within the Americas, right? Like we got 250 million Africans, over 250 million Africans in South America, and yet sometimes we romanticize the African far away because we don't love the African within ourselves. And so when I'm wearing Court Smith clothing, I'm rocking African clothing, straight up, right? And I'm rocking, because another thing too is that we gotta stop making Africa static. Africa didn't die at this one stage of its evolution. Africa is a constant evolution. So if you go there tomorrow expecting everybody to be dancing next to some drums, depending on where you go, you may not never see no goddamn drums. And so when you think about Africa, can you now see the Africa and the brothers that's sitting next to me and see that when you buy his designs, you rocking African clothing, and you should have a sense of pride about your culture as you wear his clothes? So it should be beyond just wearing his clothes because it's well designed and it feels good. But hey, if you want to go to your next Kwanzaa event or your next Juneteenth event or your next, I'm going to come to my corporate event and I'm going to be black as hell, man, throw on some of that Core Smith shit.
Yo,
So
thank you, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that real quick, bro.
Appreciate that.
Shit's tight, bro. No, your shit's fucking amazing. Next week, we're going to have Pure Talk with smooth talking
What up? This is
Tone Vic.
What up?
Tone Vic. Huh?
What up? This is Tone Vic.
Oh, is this week? Oh, this Friday. It's this Friday. Sorry. This Friday going to have Tone Vic.
What
I
up?
can't-
This is Tone
My voice
Vic.
don't even go there.
What
Like,
up?
I have to
What
just
up?
wake up.
What up? This is Tone Vic.
So we're going to have Pure Talk with Tone, Vic, and Charlize. Remember, the assignment for Pure Talk is to, hopefully you guys have been keeping a journal of situations where you see a lack of radical responsibility. And that when you show up, I want you guys to talk about areas where you found it very difficult to embrace radical responsibility. That's one. Second one is I hope for you guys had a chance to go on social media and observe the separation between facts and story. And you'll find when you see the separation of facts and story, you're gonna realize that it's a powerful ass tool. Matter of fact, if I'm talking to a heavyweight entrepreneur, those two concepts are at the core of our problem solving. I'm going to give you a third tool this evening, but these three tools will help you solve more problems in your business, your personal life. If you're a community leader, if you're trying to grow in your corporate role, these three tools and these first two tools are very difficult to get because radical responsibility is so easy to observe about others, and we so poor to see it about ourselves. And when you start looking at things that are so-called happening to you, and you decide to take radical responsibility, you're gonna feel as if you're gonna feel like you're participating in something that's unfair. You're gonna feel like it's just not right. You're gonna feel like, shouldn't somebody have to share the responsibility with you? No, that's what radical responsibility is. You taking 100% responsibility. But watch, after you get past your discomfort, remember, there is no growth without contrast. And there's definitely no growth in comfort. But what happens is that once you get used to it, watch your learning accelerate. Like you'll start learning at a rate that will literally blow your mind. Number two, watch how your drama deteriorates when you separate facts from the story. Like most of the time, a fact will happen, and most of the drama you're suffering from is a story that you told yourself or the story you perceived somebody was suggesting or implying, right? And what you'll discover is that most of your drama in your personal life comes from the story. So it comes from the story you tell yourself. So it's important that you practice this exercise because once you start to see the separation between the two in yourself and others, watch how your arguments deteriorate, watch how you feel like you gain a higher level of self-control, and watch your learning increase like you never even imagined. Remember also, I want to mention that in-person attendance is now open again. COVID is now, COVID is pretty much, it is what it is. Even though I think it's going to be a bloodbath for a lot of our people because everything's back open. Social distance is gone. Yet there's a member, pray for Kamara. He just picked up COVID and he ain't doing too well with it.
Prayers up, come on.
And so pray for our brother. I try to get more information, but when somebody's in COVID, it is what it is. But I think that's going to happen a lot now, because COVID, when we have social distance, you have more space to move and navigate. Now you're going to be going through rooms where, when you, think about this, you can receive the shot and still contract COVID. You just won't have the extreme symptoms. So now asymptomatic individuals could be around a lot of these individuals who are not taking the shot, and those individuals that haven't taken the shot, they're going to let the guards down quite naturally because that's what human beings do. We start to adjust to the return of a certain environment because of our desire, especially to have it the way it is. And for a lot of our people, we're not taking the shot. And so that means we get a chance we can get high exposure to something that we could easily take it for granted. And I see COVID. I mean, one of my close friends took him 3.5 months to recover from COVID. So in that context, COVID had it where we were trying to restrict how many people showed up, but now we're opening up the doors. If you haven't received your shot, because hey, this is a black course, you have to wear a mask. If you're gonna catch COVID, catch it outside. Just don't catch it here. I ain't got time to deal with that shit. I can't save everybody. I mean, is our kids that want to say, huh? I just can't save them, bro. so just not in my blood. So it is gonna be what it is. So so it's open. So hit us up. Let us know you're coming. I think we do have a space limitation because we kind of redesigned the studio. But let us know you're coming. I want to make sure that everybody that does come, they have a seat. But I think we may have a space limitation of 20 or 30 people maximum. But come on in. Let's get down.
Yeah, I want to see your face. I want to see your faces.
Yeah. I want to debate me in my face. No, just playing. I'll just kid. I'm not that kind of guy. So that was pretty much my announcements. We're gonna roll a video. Those of you in house, you guys can go stand behind Josh for a second. It's only a few of us, so it's enough of us where you guys can stand behind Josh. We're gonna play a video for you because this is the beginning of tonight's lesson. And after we play the video, we're gonna roll right into the lesson. So on that cue, you guys want to walk around, or you guys want to be able to see it there? Okay. Roll the video, Josh. One thing I want to really care about. Huh? Okay. Josh, go to slide number 4. Is gonna be our first slide. Huh? Get tested. You better stop sleeping with her.
That's what I'm talking about.
Ask yourself why. These are the black stories we've been shown. A narrow view that limits our understanding. But there's so much more to see. The full picture of black life. If you think you know what happens next, ask yourself why. These are the black stories we've been shown. A narrow view that limits our understanding. picture of black life. Let's widen the screen so we can widen our view.
All right. So, just 1 second. Okay, a little technical, just we're gonna wait for this technical adjustment. So, that video, extremely powerful. Tonight, I want to open up with the third tool. And the third tool is assumptions. Assumptions. I'm going to prove to you the power of assumptions and how assumptions is just as powerful as radical responsibility and separating facts from stories. Matter of fact, assumptions is so powerful, by the time I finish this conversation, if I don't increase your creativity and give you more hope, then I fail. Now, let's talk about what is assumptions first. When I sat in this chair, I assumed it wouldn't fall apart. When I stand up, I assume the ground's gonna work a certain kind of way. When I grab a handle, I assume it won't be hot. And when I pull the door, I assume it either will open or be locked. So your brain uses assumptions all the time. But what you don't realize is that you, as an individual, are just a group of assumptions. You're nothing but a reaction to a group of assumptions. That's what makes you who you are. And where do your assumptions come from? Assumptions come from experiences. So whatever experiences you have, they shape your assumptions. And then all you are as a human being is a reaction to a group of assumptions. Now, all assumptions, here's the thing about assumptions. Either assumptions control you, at all times assumptions are controlling you. And most of your assumptions you're not even aware of. Most of the people are not aware of all of their psychological assumptions. But at the end of the day, you are always being controlled by assumptions. The reality is that because most people don't know what their assumptions are, they're often just controlled by something they don't understand. So for example, if I asked you to do something and you said no, your no comes from some assumption that you have. But you may not even know why you say no. You just say, this is what everybody does. This is what I've always done. This is what's always worked for me. This is what everybody has done. This is what history books have said. This is what I saw on television. These are assumptions, right? Let's do a test. 1 + 1 equals what, Tone? What else can it equal? Why does 1 + 1 equal 2? Huh? They told you that, but based upon what do you say? Based on what do we say 1 + 1 equals 2? Right, mathematics. We assume some formula of addition is in play here that allows 1 + 1 = 2. Well, let's try something else. Let's go to the slide, the current slide right quick, the binary slide. 1 + 1 can equal 1. You say, well, how can 1 + 1 = 1? If a man and woman gets together, it's one couple, right? 1 + 1 can equal 10. In binary language, two ones equal 10. If you study binary programming. If 1 was a shape, 1 plus 1 would equal 11. Imagine you have 2 oranges, and I say if you have this orange plus this orange, you would have 2 oranges. So if one was a shape and the other one was a shape, and we remove the assumption of math, addition, and just saw it as a line plus another line would equal 2 lines, right? Why is that important? What I just did was I removed the assumption of addition. You say, well, Nana, why is that important? When you meet somebody who's extremely creative, the difference between the creative and you is they have more assumption, broader range of assumptions. So when they see 1 plus 1, they don't automatically assume that mathematically has to always apply. They say there's 2 numbers here and a plus symbol. What else can it be? Now you guys are going to see how close this is getting close to problem solving. Matter of fact, it's at a point where a lot of your assumptions are not based upon just your experiences. Some of your assumptions are programmed into your DNA from people who came before you. Another portion of your assumptions come from culture. Meaning that, for example, let's say me and Tone is having a conversation. And I say, Tone, you know what I'm saying? He goes, yeah, I know what you're saying. We just made an assumption. Let me show you another assumption. Let's say me and Tone we're about to get ready for a party. And we're getting ready for this party. And behind us is 5 ice, what do you call the things that keep the ice in? Ice boxes, whatever. What do you call it? The coolers, ice coolers. That's good. That's a good example of assumption, right? So 5 ice coolers behind me. And all of a sudden, I say, Tone, hey, man, go to the store and get some ice. Tone comes back with 1 bag of ice. I said, Tone, what the hell? What do we do with 1 bag of ice? I assume because he worked next to me, that mattered to him. But based upon why Tone was there and his motivation, that meant nothing to him. So when I asked for 1 bag, his assumption was, well, he asked me to go get a bag of ice. And my assumption was, he's been here all day, he saw those 5 coolers, what the hell 1 bag of ice going to do for anybody, right? Let me keep it going. Here's another assumption that you guys may not be aware of. If I was to say to you right now, say, look, man, I'm gonna provide a service for you that I provided for people in your industry numerous times, and it's an excellent service, and I promise you it's gonna work because it's always worked. I just hit you with a group of assumptions. And guess what? You can't even think outside of that because why? You're limited to, you're just automatically assuming my assumptions. Not realizing that there's a lot of questions if you're a business person say, wait a minute, what all businesses have always done that? Well, how do I know this is not going to work? What do you mean this is going to apply in these different scenarios? You go into an auto shop and a salesman go, you want the red car or the blue car? He's assuming you want any one of those cars. If I come to you and say, hey man, you want to make a lot, hey, look man, I know where you can make a lot of money. If you do this, it's going to help you make a lot of money. I'm assuming that's what matters to you, right? But let's show you how, so assumptions is not necessarily a bad thing. But assumptions often is a good thing, but it can extremely be a bad thing in some situations. So what do you mean? So let's say I've broadened my assumptions and I see more.
You giving the secrets.
I hopefully catching it.
You giving the secrets.
Let's say I broaden my assumptions about the world, meaning I no longer narrow myself to my cultural assumptions, and I broaden my assumptions. There's a statement that says that every assumption is an innovation opportunity. Let me say this again. Every assumption is an innovation opportunity. So quite often, if my assumptions are broadened, and I'm having a conversation with somebody who has less assumptions, meaning, for example, let's say you think about, for black folks, we often say, this is what we can't do because we assume white people are going to go do certain things. We assume that what happened in the past will happen again. We assume that what we define what happened in the past actually happened. But all those assumptions could be all false, but they're all written into our culture. So if I learn to broaden my assumptions and realize that everything that you believe is not true, when I speak to you, You can't even see my angle if you want. Your rationality doesn't give you the ability to see my angle because your perceptions are limited to your assumptions. Your perception is limited to your assumptions. So what you assume limits how far you can actually think. So when you sit around, you watch white people doing these amazing things, it's like, like this motherfucker took a picture of the black hole that is 25 million light years away, because that person has broadened their assumptions. And the more you broaden your assumption, the more your brain seems alien to somebody who has never broadened their assumptions. I want you to stay with me for a minute. So, another assumption that we make, this is the cold one, business-wise. We assume that human beings are static. This is again, we assume human beings are static. I say, Tone, who are you? When he makes that statement, this is who I am. Well, that's not true, because human beings are different in different habitats. I mean that if you put me in one environment, I'm this way. You put me in another environment, I'm that way. I'm with my kid, I'm this way. Or if I'm in this space, I'm that way. In addition to that, all of those different characters are always evolving. Now, y'all understand when you start saying things like white people? You understand who are you talking about? They're always changing, and they're different depending on the situations. But let me tell you where this hurts you as a business. So when you do your insights, or you do your market research, or you're trying to figure out where to sell your product, you develop this like, well, you know what black people like? You're wrong. You're wrong. You know, black people never, you're wrong. You know, I know black people love this. You're wrong. And on top of that too, let's say you finally align your products and service to what black people want. They only want that then in that space at that time. If you don't update yearly what they want, you will find yourself losing your customer, because at the end of the day, your customers are changing and always evolving. But your brain, your assumptions, is your brains like to assume static behavior. Meaning that I assume white people are always this. I assume Asians are always this. I assume Latino women are this. I assume Latino men is this. I assume that poor people are this. I assume rich people are that. I assume middle class people do this, right? All those assumptions, we do those so we can move quickly through society. But we don't realize that if you're trying to build or move or lead, those the same assumptions are actually making you ignorant, because it's blinding you from seeing the variables that actually exist around you. You guys staying with me so far? So I'm talking about, so if you sit down as a business person, go back to the 1+1 real quick. If you sit down as a business person and you're like 1 + 1 = 2, it's just common sense. No, it's not. That's because you have a limited assumption. We were just talking about Roy Sutherland was saying 1 × 10 is not the same as 10 × 1. He said, what do you mean? If I go on Amazon and buy 10 of one thing, it's one thing. But if I go on Amazon and buy 10 separate one items, that's a whole different business experience, right? But if you don't understand, the assumption is 1 × 10 because you're applying the assumption of math, of multiplication to business, when if you get into business, let's look at this 1 × 10 and let's change the assumptions and see the different variables.
Yeah. In the example, this shit is amazing info. This is really what how entrepreneurs tick. The 10 and 1, 1 and 10. There's so many examples of that. Like if 10 people hired 1 person each versus if 1 person hired 10 people. If 10 people hired 1 person each, then if that 1 person they hired failed, then they're at risk. It's a complete failure. But a lot of times when 1 person has to hire 10, they give themselves room for error. Shit, if 2 people fall off, if 1 people don't make it, shit, I'm all right. So that's why 10 + 1 and 1 + 10 don't equal. So this really expands your thinking. Like, it really expands your problem solving. It almost makes you be able to walk in any room and see no barriers, where all barriers may seemingly exist to the outside world, or what we call civilians. And so you'll be in a room and the civilians are panicking, and the entrepreneurs, A, see opportunity, B, see room for change. Not saying that there won't be stress and or pressure, but the world in which we look at things completely different. Because we're looking, of course we believe 1 + 1 = 2. But if that shit don't work, we got 5 or 6 other equations tucked away. Oh, okay, that don't work. All right, what's the next one? Oh, that don't work. What's the next one?
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
What's the next one? And what's the next one? Until we find a solution for that problem. That's why early on in this class, that first book we read, it talks about getting out of your comfort zone at all times. The only way you can adopt this kind of thinking is if you're always practicing being uncomfortable. You cannot adopt this kind of thinking when you're always comfortable. Because when you're stressed, when you're in a pinch, when you have a conundrum, when you don't know what the fuck to do, when you're scared, that's when you have to look for other alternatives. So being uncomfortable, putting yourself in situations that you're not normally in. That's why people laugh at all the woo crazy shit that we do, or the crazy shit that we want to do. I want to go skydiving, or I've been skydiving, I did this, or because what it does is it makes you look at the world different, and it adds more depth to your thinking and more creativity to your thinking, and be like, that's just you. You think like that, but here's more, and I've experienced it. So this is the secret sauce. So if it's people sitting around waiting to start their business because they ain't got funding. It's people sitting around waiting to start their business because they can't raise money, or because they can't start it exactly how they want to start it, or do it this exact way. And if it ain't this way, then it can't be done. Where it's people who've been started it because that was a roadblock. Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna hit that left, and over time, it comes back to the path that they wanted to get on, but they had all kind of other thinking. So this is really the shit.
So, and you guys really have to get the power of assumptions. Because, remember, we're nothing but a reflex to our assumptions. That's all you are. And those assumptions are not innate. They're developed through culture, experiences, and history, right? I think that Dr. Joyce DeGruy does a wonderful job pointing out the impact of slavery and Jim Crowism, and I would even argue now add crack to our assumption systems, right? Also, think about how your assumptions have been branded by television, white supremacy, yes, right? Altering of American information to breed American patriotism, which I'm not beefing with that, but it has affected your assumptions. If you look at other black people who have failed, it impacts your assumptions. Well, why are we doing this anyway? It's already been failed. Well, first of all, I'm not sure you was there to see every detail played, right? Think about this. You have to learn how to manipulate your assumptions. Otherwise, why would you ever be an entrepreneur? The failure rate's too high. The failure rate of being an entrepreneur is so high that if you were just to listen to your peers, just go get a job. Why would you do that? So at some point, you have to learn to see beyond. You have to be able to expand your assumptions. Now, you don't need to replace your assumptions. You need to expand your assumptions. Mm-hmm. Be very clear. I'm not asking you to replace your assumptions. You have to expand your assumptions. Once you expand your assumptions, it's almost like it's giving you ability to make creative moves that others cannot make. Look, there's an illusion, there's a myth that creativity is a psychological gift. Like, oh man, he's creative, he's special. No, they have a different expansion of assumptions. And you can do it too. This is how I became a good photographer. Because I started to expand my assumptions. I didn't have, Kevin Allen, he could literally grab a pencil and draw some shit and you'd be like, wow, that's crazy, right? Just off the top of his head. I grab a pencil and you're going to see a whole bunch of stick figures over and over and over again with some box Chevys. Well, that's I'm going to call it a Chevy, but it's really a box car, right? But the reality is that in itself is because I limited my assumptions. Yesterday, I'm running the stairs, and I'm struggling. Right? These stairs, they don't seem like they ever want to stop. They just keep going. And so I'm running, and like I'm bringing my weight down. Body's starting to curve up the way it's supposed to curve. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel me? Yeah, it is what it is, though. Y'all at home, loosen up. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at yourself. But anyway, what is this? So I'm running the stairs, and this Latin brother comes down the stairs. He's like, yo, your breathing's off. You know, I'm 55 years of age, so now, mind you, I'm curious. So I might be 55, but I got the curiosity of a child. I said, what do you mean, my man? He said, listen, I'm going to show you how to breathe and watch how you'll be able to do a lot more stairs. Man, I ran the rest of my stairs because this kid showed me how to breathe. But my assumptions said, this is how I'm supposed to breathe to finish the stairs. The kid broadened my assumptions. And so what I automatically, and assumptions are so, here's the thing. Assumptions is not rational thinking, because some of you guys are probably trying to mix the two. Assumption is your natural reaction, your reflex. I use the word reflex. Meaning when something happens real quick, for example, a snake crawls out of a bush, you don't go, oh my God, that's a snake. It could be poisonous. I should probably scream and run. Your body says, snake, boom, gone, right? That's a reflex. Assumptions is driving reflex like a reflex response. You guys get where I'm going with this now? So don't think you're going to be able to just go home and go, what am I assuming? There is a technique to developing power over your assumptions. And let's jump into some of those techniques. And then we'll do some Q&A, and hopefully this will help us drive it home. So first, if you want to increase assumptions, improve or grow your assumptions, practice diversity. When you meet other people and see how they live, you will be able to see some assumptions you're making about life all the time. You know what thing used to kill me? Pro-black people never sit down with white people. A lot of pro-black people do not sit down with white people and have discussions about how they feel purely about white people. So you can actually have a chance to hash it out, and where a white person say, what are you talking about? How the fuck am I oppressing you? I got a box Chevy. How the fuck I'm gonna oppress you, right? But in the end of the day, it's like, by meeting people of different diverse backgrounds. This is why entrepreneurs read and go out and meet different people of different backgrounds. When I travel, he'll tell you, I talk to everybody from the lowest to the highest, and from every race I can imagine, from tall to a dwarf, right? Everybody's gonna get a conversation, because why? I'm growing my insight on how this world works. I'm growing my assumptions. I'm growing my motivation. I'm growing my natural, assumptions work like this. If I put you in a situation, you're like, somehow I was able to figure my way out. Friends like, how do you always figure your way out? Because you're rich in assumptions. That person who always has the same result every time, because their assumptions are driving them to the same conclusion. Do you realize that your assumptions, what you don't assume, you won't see? What you don't assume, you won't see. Your eyes are receiving a lot of data every day, but your assumptions control what you focus on. We were in East Oakland. I'm going to go back to the story in a second about diversity, but we were in East Oakland the other day, not about a few years back, maybe about 10 years back. And I see Shakira's sister coming up the street. And Shakira's sister was living in the hood with her parents. This is when they was living in the hood. And they lived in like beneath East 14th and 82nd. Y'all know that's real shit. And Shakira's sister, they're like twins. So she's a pretty young woman walking down the street. But she's 14, 15 maybe, something like that, right? And she just do. And I'm looking at her horrified. Because I just pulled up, because mind you, I don't live there no more. I'm over here in North Oakland where, we got trees and birds and we wake up and right? So I'm like, this life is kind of nice over here, right? And mind you, I've been out the hood at this time for like maybe 15, 20 years. So I pull up to Shakira's house, parents' house, and I see everything happen. I can see everything that ain't right. So I'm seeing from that car got too many dents. Them stairs should have been fixed a long time ago. Ain't nobody got green grass right now. There's too much trash on this street. That's a lot of oil. That's hella donuts over there. That light post ain't been changed since the 60s. I'm seeing everything that's wrong that says hood, oh shit. And every time I see cats roll down the street, ain't nobody seem like they want to say have a nice day, right? And she just, I said, hey, what's happening? I said, where you been, girl? Oh, I'm just going to the store. I just came on back. We had different assumptions. Her brain is comfortable with that environment, so her assumption says, oh, this ain't gonna happen. I'm cool here. I know this person. I'm used to this. This is the way it is. My brain is tied to a different group of assumptions saying anything can go down any moment now. That don't look right to me. I don't know what the fuck that means. All hail to the no, right? What we don't realize is that this is some of the big gaps between us and white folks. We might go to the same university, but if we have different assumptions, we're extracting different information, meaning that we show up to the world totally at different levels. You guys get where I'm going with this now? How powerful assumptions is?
Press the bomb button.
Like, this shit's cold. Like, you're sitting in offices and you're lacking your ability to compete at a certain level because your assumptions are limiting the size of the terrain your brain has to operate on. Let me go into the other one. So, diversity. Meet people from different backgrounds. Number 2, physically and mentally travel. Physically and mentally travel. But let me help y'all with travel, because some of y'all be fucking up on traveling. When I went to Africa, my brother had wrote up, I'm not lying, my brother got an ego that will save the motherfucking, I mean, his ego will make everybody in this room seem like we are part of the Dalai Lama. But this cat wrote up my itinerary. This is what you need to do when you get here. So as soon as I landed, they passed me. This is what their brother left your itinerary because he's already on his way to South Africa. I was landing in Ghana. I took the paper and tore it up. I didn't even read one word. I said, this cat must be motherfucking tripping. And they said, well, you want to stay at these hotels? No. I want to go where the people are. I want to get dirty. Because first of all, good travel means you will be dirty and there will be delays. This is again, good travel means you will be dirty and there will be delays. So for some of y'all who ain't never traveled, who bring a suitcase, a big ass 2-week suitcase on an overnight trip, that's not traveling, right? Number 2, when you travel, get lost. Eat some local foods. Meet the local people. Go get dirty. Go wander around. Struggle with the communication. That's going to all grow your assumptions. That's a gift to you. Those of you who go to the fancy hotels, get the massages and go get the hotel food and go out in a bus while the guy explains to you what you're looking at, you're going to come back and your assumptions, what you don't realize is that you didn't really expand your assumptions.
Hey, I got a story. I'm in Vietnam, right? So I'm in Vietnam looking for a shoe factory for Courtsmith. And I've been trying to find resources, couldn't find it. Fuck it. Book me a flight to Vietnam, get my passport, and I'm going to just go look.
Hella tight.
Hopped out there, got the hotel. Didn't know where I was, but I knew I was in Saigon, and I did a little bit of research around where Nike's factories were, what factories sold for Nike or whatever. So, hella confidence, I'm just going to do this shit. I'm going to do it. Fuck it, I'm just going to knock on doors. I'm a hustler. I get out to Vietnam. It is a bustling city, right? Hella busy, bustling. Nobody speaks English. Signs are in English, but they're French. So I'm trying to find a map to go to factory number 1. I got to get on a moped. Not a moped I'm driving. I have to get on the back of a moped of somebody else driving. So I'm fucking sitting on this moped. I'm twice as big as this dude and the moped going through the jungle with this motherfucker. So I'm like, wait a minute. This motherfucker just saw that I have hundreds of dollars in my wallet and he's taking me out to the fields to kill me. Fuck. And I can't even explain. So then I get scared. Stop. Turn around. I was like, no. He's like, no. Here. I'm like, this motherfucker's taking me to kill me. I'm like, no, take it. So then he's like, no. So he argues with me. And then all of a sudden, like the jungle clears up and then it's a building. So I'm like, oh shit, he was telling the truth. So then I get off and I give him some bread and I give him extra. And I'm like, thank you. Cause you knew, like, I'm vulnerable out this motherfucker. I'm like, can you wait for me? He's like, I'll wait. So he sat there and waited for me for an hour as I was in there in that factory. But you're talking about assumptions, right? It was scary as fuck, but at the same time, it's like I had a new friend. Bruh drove me around the whole time based on just trust of us never knowing each other, but now we trust each other. And it's like that, I gathered a love for the Vietnamese culture and their people. I understand them more. Now when I'm out in the town and like, you know, Asian culture, why they stand so close to you? Why they all up in my space? That's because in those countries, it's a billion of them. And there is no like personal space. It ain't enough room for that. So now it's like, oh, I get it. I ain't even tripping now because I fell in love with the culture. So that's a big one. And that's a real one. Because now when you get back to your space, all your assumptions change.
So in addition to that, mental travel is a combination of reading books and documentaries about way other cultures show up to different situations, right? Those help you challenge your personal assumptions. Like you going, oh, I always assume this, right? Even local travel, you could go, we go to Seattle or we go places that, you know, black folks usually don't hang out. Like you go to Atlanta, our assumptions are pretty much consistent, right? You go to Detroit, Chicago, Southside Chicago, we kind of ride pretty close on assumptions. But like, you know, I go to Phoenix, Arizona sometimes, and I go to eat, or even I go to New York. Quiet as kept, New York is rich as fucking culture. Mm-hmm. And I go to New York sometimes just because what I'm doing is all my assumptions are being challenged. And I go there and I listen and I ask questions and I talk, and I'm like a curious kid. Now, some people, when they travel, they dig deeper into their assumptions. There's some people who got psychological where they go, and here's the thing. If you present a new fact to somebody and they don't expand their assumptions, that's called blind faith. It says again, if I introduce you to a new way of thinking and you don't expand it because you're like, no, this is what I believe, I don't care what you show me, that's what is blind faith. And a lot of us have, I would almost call blind faith to oppression. We believe white supremacy. We have a blind faith to white supremacy. We're not realizing that if you play this game of assumptions I'm teaching you right now, the walls of white supremacy are going to crumble down your mind. If you play this game I'm talking about right now, corporate America, the threats that you've built in your head are based upon flawed assumptions. Once you realize you can expand those assumptions, explore other ideas, you don't walk around. It's like I'm taking this whole idea of limiting beliefs to a whole different level now. I'm getting into the behavior science, not the behavior science, but the neuroscience of how your brain works, right? That your body is a constant reflex to assumptions that were given to you that you didn't choose your assumptions. You did not choose your assumptions. So even when you think you have free will, you really don't, because you are a reflex to assumptions. So your free will is based upon the options I gave you. And you're not realizing that you have the ability to grow the options.
That's why it's about doing. Right and wrong. Now it really shines a light on the fact that right and wrong is relative. It's not obsolete. It doesn't matter. It's about, does it work? Does it work for you? Because everyone is assuming. Everyone's making an assumption. Anybody who comes to you with any kind of perceived knowledge, data, anything is an assumption based on a frame that somebody laid out for them that they bought. So it ain't about whether the shit is right or wrong. It's, does it work? Hey, let's try it. Hey, I believe in blah, 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 blah. Well, did you try it? Does it work? What was the outcome? That's all that fucking matters. Doesn't matter how well you articulate what you think or believe, because that shit is an assumption. Does it work for you in this moment? Not even does it work overall, because like you mentioned earlier, what worked in 2012 will completely flop in 2021. So it has to be in this moment in time currently.
Yeah, like the thing with assumptions, it's just this cold. When we think about what is possible for black culture, we don't realize how many assumptions are plaguing us. And let me say this real quick. Let's go back to who you are based upon your habitat. Many of you guys are in safe habitats listening to this class. So quite often when you hear these courses in this class, your connection to this information is based upon the illusion that who you are right now is who you are when you're in the midst of a fight. Many of you guys, because you have a tendency to view yourself as static, you're not seeing the diversity of who you are. So you don't see yourself when you're sexual. You don't see yourself when you're angry. You almost want to see yourself only when everything is safe. So if I may give you game in this class, you might say, oh, I know somebody just like that. Because you don't perceive yourself in the midst of battle. But if I was to show up when you were battling and I say, hey, your assumptions are off, you're like, oh shit, I didn't know I have a problem with my assumptions. So you have to learn how to, like when you're in this class, how to see is connecting to you. And the reason you can't do that is because you haven't learned how to see yourself in multiple dimensions. You see yourself really in a central dimension. You guys get where I'm going with this? So when I tell you about this assumption game, you'll think, yeah, I know some things I've seen before. No, you do them all the time. And here's the thing. Once you get your assumption game down, you will build a wall that will ward off most deceivers who come with a big ego. What do you mean? Man, I'm really good at this. I've done this for years. I know I'm qualified to this. If you just give me your resources, I promise you I will provide these services. If you got the assumption game down, you know what questions to ask. If you don't, you call people, hey, can I trust him? Can I trust him? Did he do you wrong? Huh? And if I could just put you back against the wall and get you to sign that paper right on the spot when you didn't get a chance to make that phone call, quite often you're done. I got you. Yeah, and then later on you're like, oh, this person, he didn't deliver what I asked him for. What assumptions did you make? And once you get your assumptions games down, it's no longer an issue of hindsight analysis, it's foresight. It's a foresight assessment. You guys go with this assumption game? This shit is powerful once you open it up. Next thing, you have to move in a space of curiosity and why. Everything you believe in, why? Why do I believe that? Why is that true? And I'm talking about to the minor stuff. Is 1 + 1 always 2? Why? And I'm talking about we do this all the time as entrepreneurs. This is not something that we do when we're faced with a problem. We're walking around all the time. Why? Curious. We can have day-to-day conversations with everyday people all the time. And when that conversation is over, I am literally chopping that conversation up to story versus facts. I'm chopping it up to what are the assumptions. I'm chopping it up is that always true? Is that just true for you? Why is that true for you? What's the variable of who you are as opposed to what you did? So for example, if let's say I said to you, every time I did this, it worked. It worked for me, it worked for Court. There's one missing variable. We're assuming that you're us. So, we're assuming that if we all say we have a bachelor's degree, we're assuming that we had the same level of experience, and we're assuming that we will always show up to the same problem in the same scenario. So then somebody comes to your job and says, hey, man, I have a PhD in this, and I'm highly educated. I went to Harvard. They went to Harvard, got a PhD. I'm assume what you forgot, you left out of the equation was insanity. You left out emotional rigidity. You left out that they have
low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem. You see, so when you're learning how your brain is automatically trying to apply assumptions, it's okay if you had a party, you hang out with your friends, let it ride. Fuck it. Dude comes through and say, I'm the big baller in the room. Fuck it, you're the big baller. Ain't got to do with nothing. But if your money's on the line, learn to see the assumptions. And also learn to see your assumptions because one of the reasons a lot of you are not growing in whatever you're trying to grow in is because your own assumptions are holding you back. And you can't see them. So next one.
Let me jump in real quick. Hey, all my weed smokers. What is that? What did he said sound like? Like sounds like some shit you start thinking about when you high, right? Why is the sun the sun? Why is the sky the sky? That's weed. That's high shit. I don't know if it's indica or sativa, which one, but sativa, right? You start questioning everything and you start expanding your awareness and your assumptions about everything. That thinking gets moved to everyday life, especially in business. Why? Why do it have to be like that? Who said? That's your assumption, but can it be expanded? Like that is really the secret sauce to being a nimble entrepreneur. It's a secret sauce. It really is the lubricant between you and everything around you, because there's no more harshness. You're not bumping up against anybody or anything, because that gap between everything is you have the ability to expand your assumptions and create new opportunities in every step of the way. So that, like, this is some powerful ass game. It really is.
Let me add a couple small things, side notes. We already talked about this. Don't focus on replacing old assumptions, focus on expanding them. 2, in order for this to work, you have to have humility. Without humility, this just does not translate. You're not gonna be able to do it. Like, you gotta learn to listen with curiosity. You gotta realize, go back to what I said earlier, when I said, hey, Tone, you're a backdrop, ceiling, and floor. Tone me like, what? But when you're not, that's because at that space he doesn't feel threatened. But if I say, Tone, you're a bitch ass cat who ain't shit, Tone gets offended. Why gotta be all that, right? And it's because both ideas are ludicrous. You're neither one. But what happens is that a lot of times we listen through mental filters. And all of a sudden we assign meaning to things. Or we assign value to things that should have no value, right? And so at the end of the day, if you work on these 3 tools, which is radical responsibility, separating facts from stories you tell yourself, which is the meaning-making machine, and understanding the depth and the impact of assumptions and how to alter and grow those assumptions at all times. So when I told you I read an hour and a half a day, I'm expanding my assumptions. So when something happens, I have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 different things I can consider. Where some people may only have 2 to 3 things they can consider. And some people may even have one thing to consider.
Yep.
And so a lot of our folks who are, I would call the sheep, following the sheep off the cliff, they don't have many things to consider. They're not dumber than you. They don't have access to their assumptions. Like, this is one of the reasons, like, you hear these great stories how somebody would take a group of kids to another country and they would change their life forever. Because you know what you just did to that kid? You broaden their assumptions. But if a kid grew up on 82nd Avenue in East Oakland and never went past a 10-mile radius, that's the limit of their assumptions. So now, I want you guys to think about those of you who are upper middle class to middle class to entrepreneurs in this room. Some of you have already started the process of growing your assumptions because you probably wouldn't be here, right? Universities gave you expansion of assumptions. So when you go back in the room with the hood folks, there's a reason they don't understand you. It's not they don't like you, but it's almost like you're speaking a different language, because it's like people can't even, like, when you don't have the same level of assumptions, you can't see the other side, the other side can't see you. Well, the other side can see you, but they can't see you. They can't see you. That's why black folks can't see the systems that we can exploit to liberate ourselves. It's there. We're actually in the Bay Area, we're in the land of milk and honey. They are spending $1 million more for a house than a house is worth in Oakland, right? But our assumptions got us fucked up where we can't take advantage of the growth because our assumptions say this is where we are. This is what we charge. This is what we have access to. I heard somebody say this about Juneteenth. They said, man, that's messed up to commercializing Juneteenth. Now, my brain has a different level of assumptions. I said, what do you mean? He goes, that's messed up. I said, no, Juneteenth means we can make more money now. See, I have broader assumptions. But for that person, they thought, no, now it's being taken away from me. Number 2, my brain says Juneteenth is made up. It's a make-believe idea. It doesn't really exist. It's just a word that we coined, and now we're celebrating the release of our captor. That we were captured by somebody, and somebody released us, which I'm not sure why we're celebrating that, but it's all made up.
Right.
It's all just work. So my assumptions are broad. So they asked me, well, how do you feel? I said, I don't really have a feeling because I don't define myself by white people's assumption. I define myself by the black assumption. And so based on a black assumption, I don't know what that means to me. What does it mean if he makes it federal or doesn't make it federal? I'm not sure why I even care. Shabisha said the other day, the day that everybody smokes weed. Okay, that shit is not actually federal at all, right? But how much do they make off that one day?
Close to 400 million in legal cannabis sales in this year.
She said $400 million in legal cannabis was sold in one day. That's market. So
the below market,
it probably was, you know, what I'm saying?
$1 billion.
You understand me? And so the reality is that once you put all that together, they're not talking about, well, you know what, we're just not going to be the same until the feds makes this federal. I mean, I just wish they would just validate us and recognize us and see us. You know, no. This is where I'm going with this. I want you guys to understand how powerful your brain is assuming these stories and creating this whole like wall around your thinking. So then when you sit down and say, hey, how do we get out of this as black people? How do we change this city of Oakland? Your limitations is not what is possible. It's the limits of your assumption.
Hey, and here's some other info. You take oil and water scenarios. You take an entrepreneur and someone with limited assumptions. Worst combination. Because the entrepreneur's assumptions, they have multiple layers, limits, 30, 40, 50. And you have a person saying that it can only be done this way. Most irritating thing that an entrepreneur can hear is somebody saying what can and can't be done. Hella irritating. Like, so which side of the coin are you? Because we're one of them, right? The other thing is, if somebody comes with limited assumptions to complain to an entrepreneur, this is the only way out. An entrepreneur would be like, have you thought about this? What about this? It's not the end of the world. I just want to be listened to. I don't want no solutions. Look, you call me and you know how I think. So if you wanted somebody to listen to you, call somebody to listen to. But you call, like, my brain don't even operate in that way. So that's entrepreneur thinking, because we've trained ourselves at the drop of a hat to be like, oh shit, left, right, up, down, around, through.
Increase our reflexes.
Influence, manipulate, whatever I got to do to get to where I want to go. That's
increase assumptions. That's all it is.
And it's over years, how long you've been in this entrepreneur journey, 20, 30 years. So then as you're telling your problem, the calculations are forming. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then you're like, man, this person is ready to commit suicide, and I can help them. I got answers for them. But a lot of times they want to be stuck in that one assumption because their cognitive dissonance prevents them from listening to any other alternatives.
Like I want you guys. This game is about growing your assumptions. When you leave corporate America, do you realize how many assumptions you built that are limiting you? Do you realize when you come out of college the limitations of your assumptions? And then you add ego to your assumptions. Ego is a security guard that protects anybody from leaving or coming as far as your assumptions are concerned. Like, if you practice radical responsibility, you're going to accelerate your learning like you've never seen before. You're going to gain power. You practice separate story from facts, all of a sudden drama decreases, and all of a sudden you start to see human-created problems that have there's exercises. I can't wait on the retreat. I'm going to do some exercises around the impact of businesses of facts combined with story. And then when you see the assumption game, you remove, if you can't take control of those three alone, I just giving you guys like almost a superpower. Like, each one of those are tools. None of these tools are the absolute everything, but they're super powerful tools. And I promise you, oppression is based upon limited assumptions, not white people. There's no such thing as a group of people can stop another group of people. It only works if they can control your assumptions. Let me say this again. The only way oppression can work, the only way Jim Crow can work, the only way any type of community destruction, gentrification, anything you could come up with that makes your heart feel like you are the queen or king of social justice, the only way that shit can work is somebody has to be able to manipulate and control your assumptions. 2, if you're a business, it's not, I'm going to expand something. It's not good enough just to know your customer. You must know your customer's assumptions. If that ain't game, now this stuff I'm giving you guys, it's going to require for you guys to be entrepreneurs and put some work in really learning this game of assumptions. But from this point on, I bet you when you hear white people talk about assumptions now, you're going to hear it differently. You never heard it. You may have heard assumptions like, oh, you're going to assume I'm fucking with you, I ain't fucking with you, right? That's how we probably heard it in the past, right? Or assume is make an ass out of you but not me, right? You may have heard it that way. But you don't realize psychologically all you are is a reflex to your assumption. And so once somebody manipulates your assumption, they've changed your perception, your reality, and your outcome.
Gangster. That's gangster.
Any questions before we jump into the Eagles enemy?
Man,
Come on, jump on
that's
in.
motherfucking gangster. I should have stayed my ass home.
Nah, man, nah, I need your help on this, man. I need your help.
That's gangster.
Tone Vic, I'm gonna drop us with that. I'm telling you, the Temptations was reincarnated, and here they come.
What's up? This is Tone Vic.
What's up, y'all? Okay, first, man, I love it. For everybody online, make sure y'all come to class because it's way different when you're here if you're in town. All right, so I just got a few questions real quick, and I'm gonna say 2 in 1 first because this one I wrote before you told that story, Court, and then it kind of made me want to ask it even more. So is it safe to say that assumptions can somewhat or somehow be tied to our fears and our self-interest?
You don't have control like that. That's what's so cold. Assumptions create the fears, and they create the self-interest. Like they're before all that. Like a lot of us are trying to use assumption in the space of rationality, rationalizing, or conscious thinking. It's unconscious control of yourself. So your assumptions are being fed to you daily, and you don't even know what's happening, right? Your assumptions, since you've been on Earth, based upon when you were born in your family, there were assumptions that created then. Based on how the temperature was in that room when you were born, there's an assumption tied to that. Based upon the availability you had to your parents, created another group of assumptions. Based upon the school you went to, based upon the street you lived on, based upon the way the colors of the house. All those things are plugging in. So you have billions of assumptions, and it's unlimited how far it can go. Well, it's virtually unlimited. It's unlimited. It's limited, but we don't know what the limitation is. Assumptions are being poured into you, especially culturally, all the time, even though you may say, I don't care. You might say, I chose to ignore this. I chose to not be a part of this. I chose to be different. I chose to be someone else. Regardless, you got hit with those assumptions. Yeah. And so the assumptions are so cold that your basis of your way you think, your off and on lever, your binary code, assumptions come first, and then it's built upon that. And then all you do is, so when something happens, I might say, hey, Tone, do this for me. You're like, nah, man, I'm not into that. Why are you into that? Because there's something that happened in your past that created an assumption that says no. And you might be like, well, I don't know. I just don't like it.
That's why I was asking if it was tied to fear, because I feel like with your story, Court, and I was thinking of something same when I traveled. I was like, yeah, nah. I came up with all these assumptions because it was based out of my fear. So I thought maybe.
But that fear, that level of fear would never reach there if you grew up in a culture where that behavior was normal. And so what I'm saying is that what you're finding, this is one thing about neuroscience. None of your emotional reactions are global. Your smile, how you frown, how you get angry, what you look at with your eyes, when you just move your eyes naturally, what you analyze first is based upon culture.
Yeah. Think about this. We got daughters, right? Our daughters were developed in the dark. They were developed in the dark, in the womb, right? Pitch black. They're born. At night, turn the light off. Go to sleep. Every day, every day, every day, every day. Then, at a certain point in time, they start watching TV. And then at a certain age, they're scared to go to bed at night. Why? Does that just develop in them? Or did something they watched create their assumptions and their beliefs about what happens at night? Now they're scared because someone told them a story or visualized a story. So it's the same thing happens. When your brain is always asking questions, and or somebody or something is influencing or dropping
Stimuli.
ideas
Being
and
stimulized,
stimulate,
right.
they're dropping ideas and beliefs inside of you that will initially create the fear. Oh shit, man, I was reckless before. Now, hey, I didn't know that I can't walk at night at 98 and East 14th, but now somebody told me, are you crazy? Somebody just got popped over there yesterday. Now, if you walk that same street, you shivering.
Yeah, and some of your fears were recorded before you got here. So one of the reasons human beings hate darkness or hate uncertainty is because that represented death for us. So that got burned into our DNA. That some things. So a baby has the same response to a snake that an adult will have, and a baby doesn't need to learn about a snake, right? So some things are learned, some things are cultural, and so that's why it's important we study Black folks' oppression. That oppression is burning assumptions into our system. Okay, your heart and your brain and your breathing is running on an auto assumption, but that's assumption, right? There's some assumptions you control and some assumptions that just run on auto, right? But they're all assumptions. And so assumptions is a deeper current of who, like when you say, I am, first of all we all are stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, right? But those stories come from assumptions.
Yo, and here's something else that's funny about those is that if you trust me enough and I say, look, I'm a servant, I'm a messenger of God. And so I know the important work you're doing on 98th and East 14th. So I talk to God and he's given me this strength. So come here, let me put my hand on your head. And now I give you God's protection. So now you're protected wherever you go. And if you believe me enough and the rapport is good enough, then now you have a new assumption and you'll be walking back that same street after you were scared yesterday like your shit don't stink and ain't nothing gonna happen to you. Like that's the power of this shit and how easy, like how it can be switched.
It's very, and so like I said, Black folks' current condition is because we have distorted assumptions. Go ahead.
And the second one is, so you were saying we have to expand our assumptions. And this might be a silly question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
No,
So are you
no,
saying, so when you say expand our assumptions, are you saying like broaden them and be more open with them? Because, yeah, just like be more open with
So
your
let me tell you why
assumptions.
expansion assumptions. When I first learned this part, I had to process it as well. If you change your assumptions, then you can't see where you came from either. See, when I go back to the hood, I can relate to what's going to trigger everybody in that room. It may not mean nothing to me, but I know their assumptions, right? Or I will listen for evidence of an assumption based upon previous experiences. But I also can leave that room and go to some of my high-performing friends and know what could trigger that space because I understand theirs. So my assumptions are broadened and also increases my empathy. So now when I see something, I don't automatically trigger into, oh, this must be good or bad. I know that now I'm quicker to ask questions because I understand how my own assumptions can betray me. So I can go into a situation and be like, your assumptions is what causes racism. It causes sexism, homophobia, and all the other isms that can come up with fascism. If my son was here, he can run them all off to you. But the point is this, so assumptions at the end of the day is why human beings will say, I don't like those people. You made an assumption. I don't like this kind of food. I don't want to live in this neighborhood. I would never do that. You've been somebody go to a restaurant and they won't try anything. They assume they won't even like it. So you are saying be more open. You have to practice opening up, expanding, developing assumption awareness. That's a better word. You have to practice developing assumption awareness. Assumptions by itself, you cannot just be more open. You can be more open with the assumptions you already have, thinking you're open. The perception of open is so subjective that you'll be like, I'm being open, I'm very open-minded. You can't be. You can't process what you can't see. Right? So assumptions is expanding to things you can't see. So when you're trying to be more open, you're just trying to take what you can see and expand the branches of that, which means corrupting. So you might be like, yo, I can tell you a story. You're like, yeah, I had the same experience. This happens to me all the time. Somebody was trying to mimic themselves and saying, oh yeah, I did that too. I know that too. The difference is that because I had different assumptions, my reading on it is totally different than your reading on it. And so assumptions is that undercurrent that's directing traffic. It's not the traffic. The way you're thinking, okay, I can do this, I can expand, I can control. No, you're going to have to, the only way you're going to have access to your assumptions, okay, let's make it even bigger. In order to have access to your assumptions, you have to create contrast. Because contrast is going to make you realize that, oh, something's wrong here. If you get comfortable and there's no contrast, you can't see your assumptions.
I was watching this show. I don't know. I've been on Africa lately, like watching a lot of documentaries about native Africans, and I've been super on this one. And this, white guy goes to different tribes in Africa, hangs out with them, eats the food, drinks the cow blood, all that shit, and asks them questions. So one of the questions he asked him, it was like one of the few hunter-gatherer tribes that was left in Africa. Very authentic to how we were thousands of years ago. And he said, what's the most important thing in life? And he said, meat. Meat. And he's like, meat? He's like, yeah, meat, my friend. Like, that's the most important thing in life. That's what keeps us alive. And he justifies it. So he tried to throw in some Western culture. He's like, you guys are unhappy. Y'all depressed. You come over here, come into our world because you depressed in your world. We happy. So whose assumptions were correct? We laugh at meat, but also he's right in the assumption that the people in the Western culture are depressed. They commit suicide. He's like, suicide? Like, what's that? So it's like that right there expands your, like, fuck, wow. Very interesting. But once you put yourself in situations where you can understand, now you got more questions. The goal is to always have more questions. That's why if we're disagreeing, I love it because I'm going to walk away with some questions. And once I answer my questions, I just expanded my awareness.
Documentaries are often somebody trying to dictate their assumptions. The way you read through a documentary is learn to see assumptions and see how they try to turn assumption into a fact. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of history books manipulate us. And this is where I started to lose faith in a lot of pro-Black history books. I learned how to read them a certain way because a lot of times they were trying to project a certain assumption, which was stopping me from processing and going, well, what am I missing here? And so the way I started to expand my thought, I started realizing the difference when the author is, are you sharing a fact? Are you trying to imply an assumption? And even a fact can be based upon your interpreted assumptions.
Yep, facts.
So you see how complex it is? How now when people talk to you, you don't walk around solidifying their opinion because in your mind, that's just their assumption. Yeah. You go with this? And so now when you're processing, this is where you start to take ownership of your decision making. You're no longer gathering a whole bunch of assumptions in a room and going, okay, well, I'm making my assumption now. You're going, okay, I just heard everybody say, but why? Where are we going with that one? And then when you start to, this is when the work happens. If me and he was working on a business problem, we would write down what is the problem, what is the cost of that problem, right? How easy is it to change that problem? And then what are the emotions that surround that problem, right? Then we separate story from facts. We look at, are you fully owning responsibility? And we look for what assumptions are being made. And this is how we start to look at breaking a problem down so deep to the point you start saying, okay, so the problem is really just move to the right. That's it, huh? And you're like, oh shit, that's profound. But sometimes we pile so much shit on top of it between assumptions and the meaning-making machine and the lack of responsibility and they did this to me and it's unfair and this is not right, and it really was just step to the right. And you'd be surprised how you just accelerate your decision-making improve your strategies, increase your learning, see the world for where it stands. And here's the thing, once you realize that we're all full of assumptions and that people are good, you don't get mad because you just ran your assumptions on me. But you also don't allow the assumptions to corrupt me. So you can run your assumptions and show me all the passion, tell me about how your friends and your mom and we all know it's true and you just don't believe. And I'm gonna sit there and be like, yeah, that's messed up. But you're not tapping my bank account, so I'm not sure I'm gonna keep till you get sensitive about it, right? You're not coming from my family, so I'm not gonna sit, and you don't have a gun to my head. So at this point, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna learn from you actually. Your assumptions can be off, but I'm gonna see what your motivators are and what's driving your assumptions. And so if I ever need to work with you or ever need to push a trigger to get you to move a certain way, you've just uncoded all the things I need from you. Last thing too before she goes, when you analyze people, don't ask them about themselves. Because if you ask somebody about themselves, all they're gonna do is give you who they wanna be. If you wanna know more about a person, ask them about somebody else. As they tell you how Shabisha should solve a problem, they really tell you about who they really are. Go ahead.
So my mind naturally goes super woo-woo with this, and I keep hearing belief or faith when you say the word assumption. And so my question is, when it comes to expanding your assumptions, does things like visualization or daydreaming, does that count towards expanding your assumptions, you're expanding your mindset, expanding what's possible? Or is that something completely different?
It's okay. First of all, being delusional is a beautiful thing. It's a blessing and a curse, right? The blessing is that's how we got to this point as men and women in the world, and how we continue to evolve is because that same delusion. Being an entrepreneur is delusional, right? It's like when you first start off this path, you believe I'm going to be this, and then you get slapped, knocked, and you hold on to that delusion as your nose is bleeding, right? So there's a degree to that, but delusions are also trapped in assumptions. So you have the ability to process your assumptions, but you have to have a certain degree of contrast. See, when you're talking to somebody who you're like, yeah, so I usually drink water, they're like, no, actually, I don't drink water at all. I eat fruit. And you're like, wait, what? Now your assumptions are now on trial. This is a foundation of everybody has to drink water. And then they start to describe to you, and you're like, is that true? And then all of a sudden, it's almost like somebody opened up a whole new chapter of life. You're like, oh my God. And this sometimes it creates this euphoria, this excitement, like, oh my God, I am about to discover life. Because somebody just told you that there's a new portion of life you didn't even know existed. And it also starts to reshape your emotional engagement. Because sometimes our backs are against a wall and we're responding from that space. But when you realize the wall was never there, it's crazy. It's the craziest shit because you're like, somebody I'm gonna back you against the wall. You're like, yeah, sure you are. I think you got me. Okay. Like I went negotiating for my Harley. So I had the cash to pay for the Harley full price. But I didn't want to. For whatever reason, I just didn't want to. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Just didn't want to at the time. And I thought about it. I said, well, I'm gonna pay up to $5,000. I mean, I'm gonna give them my Harley cost $34,000, so I was gonna give her $29,000 in cash. So I was like, so I'm sitting there talking to the lady, and she's like, yo, so if you put down $3,000, I know that's a lot of money, but what we can do to help you out, because it might be kind of hard on you. Now, I could have jumped in there and be like, who the fuck are you talking to? Because that's assumptions. But I let her keep talking because she started throwing discounts because she felt bad because she assumed what she would feel, I would feel. And I was like, well, yeah, keep it going. I feel bad. Keep talking. Ooh, this hurts, right? That pain saved me $4,000 that she suffered, that she thought I suffered, right? So there's times you got to let assumptions ride, but you got to be able to see them. But if somebody comes at you or they throw something at you and you feel that's as far as you can go or that's all you have, a lot of times you created this drama when there is none because you're limited. But it's not something you control. It's not like you just being lazy or you being stupid or you need to ain't thinking or you just need to process it. Because you could think your ass off, but it's limited to your assumptions. Remember, your brain, your assumptions is the terrain your brain will run on. And so if I put you on a small 300-yard football field and then this cat's moving on the size of California, No matter how good of a person you are, we're all equal. We should love each other. I went to school with you, and blah 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 blah. And I read the same books you read. Why is he outperforming you? Because his assumptions are larger.
Yeah. So you take visualization, you take daydreaming, right? With this knowledge, just remember you're still under the premise of your current assumptions. So to expand that is you ask questions, right? You ask questions are the bridges to expanding your assumptions. But current visualization, current daydreaming, you're just sometimes you can find thoughts that you hadn't thought about in a while, but you're still swimming in a pool of your current current assumptions. So that just know that you're still limited. It's what's already here. It's everything I poured in my whole life is now when I think about what I want or I'm daydreaming about where I want to be. It's still based on. Like when I was 19, it's like I want a 5,000 square foot home on an acre of land, and I want this car and this car and this car and this car and this thing and that thing, and I want my wife to look like this and all that shit, right? Because that's the picture that was painted for us through society.
Hey, no,
Then you engage in real life. And you grow up and you engage in life and you realize, I don't even like women like that. I don't like women like this. Or I don't even like that car. That car, my lifestyle isn't conducive to that kind of car. And you change your assumptions based on upgrading your thoughts or asking questions or living. So just know that there's limitations to it and just keep asking questions, engaging.
Side note, here's a cool side note. Do you know you get more pleasure from anticipating an event than the actual event itself? You know you get more pleasure from anticipating the person you're dating than the person you're dating. You know you get more pleasure from anticipating marriage than marriage itself. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a cold game? So your anticipation is where most of your dopamine is flooding your brain from anticipating the joy you're going to receive from something than the actual event itself. So we spend more money in the space of anticipation, and then once we receive it, we realize it ain't all that. This is
It's cold shit. Yeah, let me jump on that real quick. Econs, they wrote the book about lottery tickets, right? Lottery tickets. I think we read it. And how you have a 1 in a zillion chance of winning the lottery. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing buying lottery tickets and all that stuff? But they overlooked one assumption. The econs did. And that is exactly what he said. Most people don't believe they're going to win the lottery. They enjoy the utility of thinking, just having a fucking option or even a slight chance of winning. That dopamine that gets rushed through their brain from the time they buy the ticket to the night of the drawing is worth that dollar. So that's the utility. That's it's crazy shit. So if you know how to play on that, you can also win in spaces.
Any questions online? We good? Okay, good. So let me keep it rolling because I just want to close out this point, then we'll jump into ego. I'm gonna say this one more time. This is so important. Every assumption is an innovation opportunity. Every assumption is an innovation. So here's the other side of assumption. As you expand your assumptions, you remember I said to you guys, we read the book Prosperity Paradox, and it was saying that the potential size of the non-consumer market through innovations is huge. So the more we can tap into innovations in our community, we can have huge impact. I would almost say that that's how we mine a lot of the gold in our own community is through innovation. But what stops our innovation is limiting our assumptions. So as you expand your assumptions, you expand your opportunities and your innovation. Even though it's innovation opportunities, but I can almost separate those two words and say you can expand opportunities and innovation opportunities, right? Your assumption is what makes you, if you say I'm not creative, it's because you have assumption limitations. Your creativity will increase overnight if you learn to start playing with your assumptions. Hopefully everybody understands this is a super powerful tool. All right, let's jump into ego is the enemy. This passage today will be read. Wait a minute, hold on a second. She done put another one of Beyonce. You know, I should leave this up there for Court. I think I'm gonna put it, when Court gets back, I'm gonna make sure he sees see this, you understand me? And so that way Court can have motivation because his soul must feed, you understand me? And that feeds the soul. So anyway, let's get into the first slide. Court, before I pull up the slide, Court. So anyway, as we go, as we move forward, let's jump into slide number 7. Let's go.
To be clear, I'm not talking about caring. I'm talking about passion of a different sort. Unbridled enthusiasm, our willingness to pounce on what's in front of us with the full measure of our zeal, the bundle of energy that our teachers and gurus have assured us is our most important asset.
Keep going.
It is that burning, unquenchable desire to start or to achieve some vague, ambitious, and distant goal. This seemingly innocuous motivation is so far from the right track, it hurts.
So we're talking about how passion is an undomesticated expression of your ego. And here it's saying, to be clear, I'm not talking about caring. We're not talking about caring. Not talking about passion of a different sort, unbridled enthusiasm. That's not what we're talking about. Our willingness to pounce on what's in front of us with a full measure of our zeal, the bundle of energy that our teachers and our gurus have assured us is our most important asset. It's that blind drive to the point where if you want to play with the assumption, we'll play with assumptions a little bit here. You believe in something so passionately, I can't even expose you to a new fact. It's like a blind form of it's almost like this emotion that surrounds this blind sense of faith that is unquestionable to you because your assumptions say this is the only option you have. Right? And so you can have motivation. Like it says, we're not talking about motivation. You can care about something. But we're talking about to a point that you're willing to forsake all because you believe this is so important. Court told you about the case when he worked so much because he had a passion for building his business, he stopped seeing his own kids, right? Or when I go to a nonprofit and they have a passion for what they want to do for people, they don't even see the people they're trying to help. You have a passion for how to save black people and black people never ask you for help. You have a passion for what white people need to know and you ain't never talked to white people. Like this is crazy how much passion can get so blinding that all I need to do is feel it, and that's enough.
Hey, I want to add this. Shout out to Mika. She's one of the Hope students who lives in Philly. She was out here because she does work out in Oakland, so I got to meet her. And very dope system, very dope. So just shout out to you, but she had asked about that. About passion, and this is the answer. It's if you always can tell when someone is over passionate. If I say, "Hey, that ain't it," and they go, so like,
Yeah.
that's when it's too much, bro. You're beyond the point of where that serves you, and now it's hurting you, because any word anyone says against where you're going is destructive to you. Purposeful. It has to have a purpose, but you have to be able to stop on a dime. If you can't stop on a dime, then it's a problem.
I mean, okay, look at this one phrase. It says, to achieve some vague, listen to this, vague, ambitious, and distant goal. Vague. Man, you don't even know. If I ask you details of where you're going, you can't give that to me. I want to start this kind of business. That's why I ask you a lot of details about the business. You can't tell me that, right? I'm ambitious. I just really want to do this. And then distant goal. You know, when you plan a distant goal, healthy thinking says there's such an unknown terrain you have to travel. So that means that you have to be flexible and curious and trying to gain as much foresight as possible. So you have this desire to learn. Passion just removed that whole phrase. I'm gonna get here and it don't matter I know it's gonna take a long time, but I believe it's for me and I'm on my way. I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna be a billionaire one day, a millionaire, and I know this is gonna work. You know how long of distant goal that is when you first start? But you're not willing to learn how to take one step at a time, how to position yourself to climb step by step, but you engage in this vague, and here's the thing, all the people around you are vague. The people who support this passion are vague. The sources you tap into are vague. What motivates you is vague. Let's keep going. Next slide.
In our endeavors, we will face complex problems, often in situations we've never faced before. Opportunities are not usually deep virgin pools that require courage and boldness to dive into, but instead are obscured, dusted over, blocked by various forms of resistance. What is really called for in these circumstances is clarity, deliberateness, and methodological.
Methodological.
Why did I just have a-
methodological.
Yep, determination.
Determination. So that word methodological and the word clarity and deliberateness. Oh, me and these words. Me and my slow, non-Spanish speaking tongue. Trust me, if you ever watch me speak Spanish, it's like an old black man trying to talk proper. It's hilarious. But let me say this. If somebody's moving with clarity and they have a methodology on how they move, meaning that they're aware of different systems and structures and methods and they're aware of their limitations and assumptions and they're applying different tools. That's not what we call impassionate. It's the removal of those things, and you're moving without those things. The subtraction of those things, and you're operating. If you're operating with the subtraction of those things, what we discover is almost like you're operating on this pure energy of this imagination, a blind imagination of this hope, this blind hope. And the problem with that is that those individuals can do a lot of damage. Because it'd be different if everybody saw you coming and everybody was able to build a walled up defense, put their hand out. Here's the thing that we don't realize. They capture other people who share the same passion or kind of share the same passion. And sometimes they even capture people who are not paying attention. So say an investor or a foundation wants to give money and the person who shows up just expresses this great passion, but they never really go past the surface. And then the person listening automatically adds assumptions to everything you're saying. So you're saying something, but they're adding all the depth to what you're saying, right? And this is when you get somebody who will receive a large sum of money and then just burn it off. And then when they burn it off, they blame others for taking away their opportunity because they never realized there were obstacles that need to be, like it said in this one point, we don't realize instead of obscured, dusted, over, blocked by various forms of resistance. They don't see the resistance. They don't see it. They just think it's the matter of me just wanting to be there. We see it even when people join our class the first 2 or 3 months. How can I be successful by next year? You don't see the resistance, do you? You don't.
Yeah. So it goes back to this. He's running upstairs, right? He's running upstairs. Obviously, to run up some motherfucking stairs, you have to have an intent, a goal, right? You're in the journey of an intent or a goal, a way of living. And there may be, like, it's not like we love stairs.
Not
right?
at all.
So
very clear. I fucking hate stairs.
So you're running upstairs, and somebody decides to interrupt what the fuck you are doing to tell you you ain't breathing right, right? Now, some people will be like, the fuck out my face. Like, you messing up my concentration. Like, I hate this. Now, how you gonna tell me I've been breathing for 50 years? I know how to breathe.
Sorry. I love that.
But to be able to stop on a dime and say, oh, show me, tell me what you're talking about. That's the difference between unbridled, unpurposed passion and passion. Passion that just, you leave me alone. Can you see I'm working hard.
It's my destiny.
Yo, relax. And so you'll see different paths traveled. And sometimes on the surface, like above that iceberg, it looks similar. It looks like similar energy. But underneath one is all passion. And underneath the other is all strategy and learning and pivots and learning, strategy, mentorship, asking, learning, growing, changing, strategy. And that's the difference. And a lot of times we get caught up by what we see on the surface and we think it's passion, but underneath that is strategy.
Listen, when you have an assumption, you only see what you assume. For example, if I think Tone is lazy, Tone may did a lot of things right, but I will only see the lazy stuff he does. You have a mate that you feel is don't clean, you'll never see when they clean. You only see when they don't clean, right? When you're passionate, you have an egotistical form of passion. When you listen to speeches from entrepreneurs, you only hear the passion part of the speech. You don't hear the details of the strategy, or you don't hear what you don't know. Huge difference.
Yeah. Early in my entrepreneurship career, there wasn't a class like this. So I went on my own journey, and I spent a lot of money on motivational, inspirational shit. And it's really high on passion, really high on being inspired, being motivated. And so by the time you finish one of these motherfucking seminars, you think you can run through a brick wall. You really do. You really do. And guess what happens? If you have some skill set, you may make more traction than you did before because you have more energy surrounding it. But at a certain point, you're going to crash because there's no tools. There's no tools. And you're running all on inspiration. And what those do is they take your passion, it's pimping. Because what they do is they actually take your passion and they put gasoline on it and they set it on fire. And then they charge you for every step of the way.
Yeah. Pimp game, baby.
And so, you can be manipulated and hijacked if you're over passionate. You can be manipulated at every step of the moment. Hey, I see what you're doing. I can help you make more. And that's really is a savings.
Next one.
But too often, we proceed like this: a flash of inspiration. I want to do the best and biggest blank ever. Be the youngest blank. The only one to blank. The firstest with the mostest.
You hear this all the time. I'm going to be the first. I'm going to be, that's all passionate talking. And when I hear that stuff, we're the only people going to ever do this. Why is this important that you know? One, a lot of people, let's listen to this class, you guys have done it, are currently doing it. But number two, and I promise you, more of you are doing it, but most of you guys can't see yourself. Once again, you only see yourself in this safe habitat. And right now, while you're in the safe habitat, you think about your friend who does that. But you know what they say? If you see it, it's probably in you too. Right? Number two, this one slide here is actually providing some canary in the cave. When you hear people use these kind of phrases of this such structure, then do me a favor, don't quickly go invest in them. I have a godson who's trying to start his own business. And every time I talk to him, this is him. He says, man, why won't you give me 10 grand to run this idea? Because I'm not paying for your ego. I need you to know the game you're in. And I need you. And when I talk to you, I need to be blown away because you command the knowledge. You gain enough knowledge. It's like, imagine somebody says, "Uncle, give me some money because I'm about to go to an NBA camp to get an MBA." I say, "Okay, cool. Hey man, I saw this basketball game the other day, and the coach did this. Oh, that was some shit. I don't know what that is. Anyway, but I know I'm gonna be hella tight. I'm better than the rest of them dudes. Yeah, you ever run this kind of play before? Play? Nah. I know at the end of the day, if I get in the game, I bet you I'm better than Jordan. Guess who not gonna give you money? I'm gonna do it. Now, Uncle Tone might help you out, but nope, he not gonna help you out. Next one.
The advice, okay, well, here's what you'll need to do step by step to accomplish it. The reality, we hear what we want to hear, we do what we feel like doing, and despite being incredibly busy and working very hard, we accomplish very little. Or worse, find ourselves in a mess we never anticipated.
So I'm probably should let Cord just take this one. Cord has done this so many times. I've seen him tell me. He called me and tell me, "Hey, now I told this person to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G." When I talked to them, all they heard was E. Now, Cord said do E because I'm really good at E. I've always been a good person at E, and they avoid the other ones. Oh, that's too hard. I don't even want to do that anyway. Plus, I don't think I need to be doing that. This is what I want to do. People say, I'm not good at reading now. So how do I grow without reading? If you don't get your ass and start reading one word at a time, because you're going to speed up.
Reading Rainbow.
Right? But like at some point, it's like when you sit with people who can assist you, they will pick up on you, and after a while, they will cut you off. Because they realize, I told you to do A, B, C, D. It's okay if you did A, B, C and forgot D. But don't come back and say, well, I kind of did A, but the rest of that stuff was just, I'm not really interested. That's what ego is.
Yeah, these are formulas. This is not a la carte. This is formulas. So if you know a mathematic equation, every element in the formula is critical to the answer. So some people walk up to the formula and be like, I like E, that's my favorite letter. I like 7, I'll take 7. I'll take V, but the rest of the shit I don't like. And then try to use that in the equation to get the same answer. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Go back here. And so a lot of times we want to pick and choose this entrepreneurial journey. And the hard shit, the hard parts, the parts where we either have zero experience or zero skill, that's where the work begins. That's where the work begins. And a lot of times if you're overly passionate, you going 100 miles an hour, you want to skim over that. You want to smash past that. Or your ego won't allow people to see you vulnerable. To be like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're not gonna come sit in this class and have somebody walk in and see you that you're practicing. You don't want to go to Nolo Books and go get a book and read it in front of everybody because you have to order yours on Amazon. Because I can't let folks know I don't know this, right? Here's the other thing too: is it said the busy thing. I know more black people who are busy making no money than anything in the world, right? You could be busy doing nothing. You could have a whole bunch of important things that don't mean. This is one of my early audits when people come to me and I ask them, so what are you doing today? And they tell me what they're doing. I'm thinking, have you done a cost of opportunity analysis to see the value of your actions? Because right now you're working at under minimum wage, but they're so passionate they just continue to do all these unnecessary steps of nothing because they're very, very passionate, as opposed to, is this worth my time? What's the cost of opportunity if I do A versus B? Where should I be showing up with my space? And so you almost have this thing where, hey man, how you been? Man, I'm busy. Which is trying to say to somebody else, I'm working my passion. I'm being somebody. But ultimately what you just said was, I got a big ass ego and I'm fucked up and I'm about to create a hot mess.
Hey, I had a partner when I was younger. We used to hoop together, and he always wanted to be point guard. He was a shooter. Cold-blooded shooter, but didn't appreciate how good of a shooter he was because he wanted to bring the ball up all the time. He just liked the power of being able to distribute the ball and bring it up. And I will always say, no, bro, you're a shooter, you're a shooter. Till one day I got irritated. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be the shooter, you run point. And it was crowd. It was tournament play. So it was like, we're going to let you do this. First, he gets the ball. He freezes. His defender sees him freeze. He guards him all the way at full court. So he has to get the ball up. He has to get the ball all the way to where we are by himself. He gets like 3 or 4 steps and get ripped in front of the crowd. Crowd goes crazy, and then they score. He looks at me like, come help. I'm like, nope, you got it. I let him torture himself 2 times, 3 turnovers in a row. Bruh, don't ask me no more to be no point guard. We good now? Yep, we good. Because sometimes we see what we want. We want this thing. We don't even appreciate what we got. We see this, but we don't do the shit that it takes to get there. So it says we'll find ourselves in a mess we never anticipated, because when you overpassionate, you don't think what could go wrong. Do I have the skill set do I have the dribbling ability to get a motherfucker off me if he's trying to lock me up full court? I haven't practiced it. I've been shooting this whole time. But you'll bypass that whole thought because the myopia of the power of being a point guard has taken over your thought process. And in business, we do the same shit. We want to open things. I want to do this, and this, and not realize, bro, you don't even have the skill set yet to do one.
I mean, you go get credit loans, or you go spend hella money, or you go sell off stuff. You pull out equity because you just know this is going to be the right idea. That's that blind passion, as opposed to you did some form of calculation. Next slide.
Because we only seem to hear about the passion of successful people, we forget that failure shared the same trait.
I mean, that point, I'm going to hit it real quick. We have to remember that passion doesn't make you more successful. Passion is a beautiful story that anybody could tell in hindsight. In hindsight, people kind of exaggerate it as it is. That's why I like to hear people tell me about their success in hindsight, because you forgot to tell me about that time when you fell off the fucking cliff and you made the worst mistake of your life, and how you learned that a mistake actually, that your weaknesses and your mistakes actually caused you to work on something that you're still working on today. You won't tell me that. What you'll tell me is like, yeah, so I had this problem, and I just bleeded myself, and I just made a move, and I accepted that at some point everybody could be great. I believe that because I worked hard, anybody can work hard, and I'm a prime example of what works hard, so just make sure you work hard. And I work around and talk about, see, I'm working hard, I'm passionate. He told me this is why Steve Jobs, stop it. Stop all that stupid shit at the gate, right? So here's this other one. This is why I told you guys in this class, we have to study failures just as much as we study success. Because failure is full of information and will expand your assumptions. If you study a success only, you are actually narrowing your assumptions. So when people fail in business, you should become so curious and also celebrate people who failed before you, because they laid the foundation for you to learn from, right? Failures in business is not bad. Failures in business is information for growth. So when somebody tries, because what you'll find is that, especially when you start to hear the assumptions that they applied that was part of their failure, you hear similar assumptions you're currently applying that you're taking for granted.
Yeah, that's why if you hang out with a lot of people who have had a measure of success or the success that you want or desire, and you're looking for some special thing about them that makes them special or make them a billionaire or a millionaire, you ain't really gonna find it most of the time.
No.
You'll realize that most of the time they ain't no different than you. It's just they decided to fail way more times than you decided to, and they learn from those failures and let that be the building block to where they are now, and that's it. They just a regular ass person.
Sometimes it's luck too.
And sometimes it is
fucking luck, right? But I would almost argue that a lot of people who are, look, there's an argument a long time ago, we told you guys this, the guy who runs a corner store and the guy that runs a big corporation are putting in the same amount of work. The one has just a bigger group of assumptions. It's just that different, right? Go to the next one is great. Let's go to this next one real quick. I love this one.
Passion passion typically masks a weakness.
Stop right there before I even get into some shit. Y'all know I've been pro-black since I was 22. I call myself now progressive black because I just refuse to accept the term pro-black because it felt too static. So I'm progressing as a black person. Pan-Africanist to my heart. Love African people all over the world. I don't really have no division. Whether you're from Africa, Jamaica, Haiti, East Oakland, or across the street, I'm riding with you as long as you ride with yourself. Cool. But let me tell you something I found out a long time ago, and this is going to hurt. But, since we're going to have, this is going to be amongst us. The most hotep of us is often the weakest of us. We say this again. A lot of folks who are super, super passionate about race or social justice, this is when remember I told you guys, I said, one of the things I hate about social justice, y'all be thinking I'm just being an old-ass grumpy man, is because quite often we're giving the depressed and the weakest of us the strongest voice. I said that. I know that when you finally realize it, you're going to realize I'm not saying all they do is bad, because there's some good that comes from it. But we don't realize that passion typically is masking a weakness. And the people who are most passionate about injustice, if you get close to them, please go get close to them. Don't observe them. Don't judge them from afar. Go sit at the table and have the conversation. The people online who's canceling everybody, who's calling for you to cancel A, B, and C, go sit. Go look at their economic structure, their life structure. Look at the relationship they have with their wife, their kids, their ex-kids, their ex-wife. Their ex-wife and the kids that they don't no longer live with, right? Just pay attention to the relationship they have with friends in the community. Look how people who come around them. And you're going to realize that a lot of this passion y'all hear of all these people screaming at you, they're masking weaknesses. And once you understand, once you see that shit, at that point, you will hear them differently. And it's not saying that, there's some things they discover you like, wow, brilliant that you saw that I can see this. But be slow to blindly follow their commands. Just slow. I'm not saying there's no such thing as everything you do is wrong. Even the clock is, what they say, a broken clock is right at least once, what do they say, once a day or something like that? I don't say that shit, but it's something they say. But anyway, point is this. Yeah, look. No justice, just us. I got that one down. Anyway, so what I'm saying is this. Passionate people are always masking a weakness. If you want to stop the con game, if some of y'all partner with passionate people, and they find out later on, my partner is a passionate person, never had any skills. What you need to do is, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean a passionate person can't evolve and become strong. But quite often, their passion is stating a weakness at the moment. I've done this to some people. Hey, send me details of your offer. And when that document comes in, it looked like the kids did it when they were cheating in class. It shows like it had no focus, and I don't even see the string of thought. Passion is, I'm talking about it masks weakness like you've never seen before.
So when I spent time pitching my business to get investors, right before I started Courtsmith and other times, at the end of my pitch, I would hear, well, you're really passionate. I can see you're really passionate about your company. And at first, I would look at that as a plus. Like it was a notch. Like, okay, that's one thing I'm doing right. But after all them no's, I realized they clowning me. So then every time I'm like, let me add more data and less passion. Just let me tweak it. 10% more data, 10% less. And then I can see you passionate. All right, let me turn up the data and the experience and the knowledge and turn down the passion. Oh, okay, I think I get it. I'm not there yet, but I get it. And I can see that you're knowledgeable about what you're doing. Oh, I just got a new one. I just got a knowledgeable. Let me turn up more knowledge, more experience, more intelligence, turn down the passion a little bit. You really know what you're doing. You really know the ins and outs of this business, don't you? Yes, I do. I did before, but I had to tweak and learn because all these motherfucking knows that people with real bread don't give a shit about passion. They clowning. If they tell you, I can see you're passionate, that's a clown.
You're masking weakness. That's what they're thinking. You're weak. They can just call.
Yeah.
They just told you you're weak, but you can't hear it. This is cold game. I'm trying to give y'all like, look, man. If you take white people if you remove white people as your limiting beliefs, it gives you a chance to see where you're not showing up to yourself. See, white people give you an excuse to walk away from self-responsibility. But when you take on radical responsibility, you can't blame white people no more, even if it is their fault. Because I'm not letting white people off the hook. I'm not saying they're off the hook. I'm saying, but by focusing on them, we're not growing. Once you start to say, well, why is this not working? A white man who wants to eat wants to eat. He don't give a shit if a white person brings him a sandwich or a black person brings him a sandwich. He's hungry. So if you have a business where he can engage with you that's going to improve his success or her success, then do understand they're not going to just be like, you're black, I'm done. And even if he does, what are the other 300 million people going to do? Right? And so at some point, where are we slipping? And there's buzzwords, if you don't know what they mean, you might think, oh, he said I was passionate. See, he knows I love my business. It don't matter. We know that's a sign of weakness. Keep going.
Its breathlessness and impetuousness and franticness are poor substitutes for discipline, for mastery, for strength and purpose and perseverance.
Keep going.
You need to be able to spot this in others and in yourself, because while the origins of passion may be earnest and good, its effects are comical and then monstrous.
We just said all that. This is so important you see this. The word is monstrous and comical. And this is why a lot of y'all get laughed at. This is how I feel about a lot of people who approach me in this class. Because their ego is so damn big, I can't hear you. And I don't even want to, like I'm actually already plotting how to exit the room when you say hi. Because I can see your ego showing up about how you going to do the mostest with the leastest, or the leastest with the mostest, or whatever he said it earlier. I'm going to be the first, the only, the greatest, the best in the world. I'm about to do this, and with no experience, and nor do I care about learning how to do it properly. I'm not going to take any of the channels that's necessary to develop and grow myself. I'm just going to show up and be rewarded as successful. I'm going to pitch this new idea I just started yesterday, and I expect all the money just to show up and people to invest in me, and people to open their doors and opportunity to me because why? I just landed. This shit is so cold because don't think for 4 seconds what I ain't mean. Because it's, once again, you're not in that situation. See, when you're at home and you're going to work every day, that may not be you right now. If you get fired tomorrow, you start your business, oh, you'd be surprised who you'll become. And so what you don't realize, if you want to build real partnerships and strategic relationships to achieve your goal, don't show up like this. Don't engage this form of thinking. Start mastering your craft. There's no substitute for practice. There's none. There's none. If you substitute practice, you might be Ben Simmons. Next one. Oh. I know. For my folks in Philly, I'm sorry. It was just
Mika, you hear that, Mika?
I'm sorry because it was just right there. I had to just. Anyway, go ahead.
Passion is seen in those who can tell you in great detail who they intend to become and what their success will be like. They might even be able to tell you specifically when they intend to achieve it, or describe to you legitimate and sincere worries they have about the burdens of such accomplishments.
I'm going to be successful next year. I'm planning on the next year I'm going to do this, the next month I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come up with this, and then before I'm going to flip that. And when I flip that, I'm sure I can get your money back by then. Keep going.
They can tell you all the things they're going to do or have even begun, but they cannot show you their progress because there really is any.
Take it, bro.
This is true story. This morning at the gym today, I seen your boy, our boy, the brother who came to my office and told me about myself.
Music. Oh God.
So he at the gym.
Ego
today.
of the gods.
So he's at the gym today. I ain't thinking about you. I'm trying to get my shit done.
Right.
I walk in. He said, "Oh wow, what's up? What's up?" He's like, I didn't ask him how things going. How's he going? I don't care. I'm trying to get my workout done. So he's like, so is your business still up? I said, yep. He's like, where you still over there by Swan Way? Nope. Where you move? I'm downtown. I'm like, cool. All right. He's like, yeah. So, and he goes off, and you can tell the lie and the truth. He's like, yeah, so I got this juicing company. Remember the juicing shit? I got this juicing company. It's going well. I got this book thing, and it's going well. He's like, and to get through COVID, I had to get me a little job, $20 an hour just to pay the bills. Bruh, he told me this, bro, today. So I'm like, cool. Well, I'm glad you got through it. And he's like, yeah, these people be out here trying to be entrepreneur, and I just started a nonprofit, 501(c)(3). I got my paperwork today, and so these people be out here. They don't want to listen. They don't want to listen to the game that we got to give. I'm like, nope. Hey, you have a good day. You have a good day. Good seeing you, bro. I'm gonna go finish my workout because I don't give a fuck. But like, you talking about delusions. An inability to see themselves because he wants to posture so bad. But the cold part is when he told me about the $20 an hour job, he looked me in my eye. When he told me the two things that were going well, he was looking off into space. And I'm like, bro, you lying. It ain't going well. If it was going well, you wouldn't have a $20 an hour
You wouldn't
job.
even. If it was going well, he probably wouldn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
When things are really going well, you show up different. You have like when you're sitting there acting like a lawyer presenting a case. Usually, there's no case, right? And so, where if it just kind of seeps out in the conversation, because I say, no, how you been? Well, man, you know that company I told you about? Yeah, that shit blew up, man. I'm shocked. I'm humbled by that. That's a possibility. But you know what I'm doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I don't know about y'all, but when you say what's up, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, they seem kind of almost close to equal in our community. Right? What's up with you all, man? I'm doing. It's that's, and then here's the thing. This is how you know somebody's running game. Usually there's no evidence. Like he just said, if you're doing well, he had no evidence to show him. The guy who's trying to get me to give him 10 grand, hey, I've been running the business, this. I said, I don't understand why you need 10 grand again. Because first of all, it's a low number for any type of growth. And he goes, well, see, I had to spend all the money I had on employees. I had to pay to get jobs done, which is mean that I'm hiding my lack of no evidence. You see where I'm going with this? This is shit that people do all the time and won't even. And here's the sad part: some of us have been programmed to talk like this to our training since childhood about don't show people your bad side in the black community. We've been trained to lie or wear a second face in public. And so when people ask you a question, you're almost trained to tell people I'm doing good and then elaborate on what is good. But the problem is that your brain will start to believe it after a while. And then you won't put it into practice. And then one day, 6 years from now, I'll be like, yo, what happened to you? Man, I did hella work and it seems like I'm not making any progress. No, you did hella talking. You ain't did shit. Next one.
How can someone be busy and not accomplish anything? Well, that's the passion paradox.
There you go. Black folks, let's make it really simple for you. If you're working on something and you broke as fuck, you're working on something and you ain't made enough contacts where you're at the point where you won't be broke as fuck. Let me just say this to you. You're stuck in the passion paradox. Let me make it really simple for you now. Oh, I'm so busy with your broke ass. Passion paradox. Keep going.
Yeah, and let's go back to the assumptions. You have very limited assumptions where you are. Limited assumptions. So you have to rapidly expand your optionality, and because the stories you're telling yourself in the moment have got you stuck. What else? There's plenty of other people out there making it. What is going on? And if you're not asking yourself that question, you're stuck in that passion paradox with very limited assumptions.
I mean, like, think about this. Okay, so remember we talked about optionality versus narrative thinking, right? So being able to see the options that are playing out and also maintain optionality when you're running a business. Meaning you have more than one way to get to a certain goal. That way, if something gets shut down, your business progress and momentum never stops, right? But you know what fuels optionality? What makes optionality robust is increased assumptions. See, if you have limited assumptions, your optionality is very, very thin. But as you grow your assumptions, now, could you expand optionality without assumptions? Yes, but it's going to be mostly hindsight. Like something will happen and you get home and be like, well, you know, it could have been this. We're talking about your reflex. That means in the game, the ball's passed to you, a reflex. What does your reflex do? Or do you go, oh shit, the ball coming. What is the velocity? Where shall I hold my hands? I think this should be right. Right? When you get your assumptions up, you get that basketball pro reflex. So when situations are coming at you, you're responding almost faster than you're processing it. Now you guys getting worried how deep this assumption game is? All right, finish this one up.
If the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results, then passion is a form of mental retardation.
Quote unquote, for those who want to cancel the
It was
book.
in the book. It was in the book.
Deliberately blunting our most critical cognitive functions. The waste is often appalling in retrospect. The best years of our life burned out like a pair of spinning tires against the asphalt.
That's the part that hurts. That's the part that hurts. We're losing. Like there's so many people right now who gives up their 20s and their 30s, and sometimes their 40s for passion. I know a young man right now about to hit 30. He's been on the same passion that drives in his 20s, right? And you're wasting valuable resources because it's not that you're not a talent. It's okay. Ego is not suggesting you're dumb or you're not qualified to be on this earth or you're not qualified to even be a great entrepreneur. Ego says you just don't become one, right? It's like, what was that? The basketball player that was actually pretty good who left the Lakers and he retired at the Warriors. Last game he played in the NBA was Warriors. He was a clown, a big clown. Just shit talking all the time.
Nate Robinson.
Not Nate Robinson. I can't think of the dude's name. He can shoot 3 points. He's actually a really good basketball player. No. He played the last year before. I think it was last year Durant played. He played. I think he may have played. And him and another player got into an argument because he told about the dude's relationships.
Oh, yeah. D'Angelo Russell.
Not the other one.
Nick Young.
Nick Young. You can become like Nick Young real easy. Nick Young actually was pretty fucking talented, right? Or even Russell Westbrook. Is these people who get caught up in this idea of how things are supposed to be, they never fully reach their full potentials, right? You'll see a basketball player come into the league and they got a chip on their shoulder, right? Or they have a belief, right? Or even Kyrie. Kyrie has an idea of the way the world's supposed to be. Well, if we had to transfer those people to business, you can have somebody who's, and I think it might be a poor example, but it's you're driving this idea in your head. You build a world up in your head. You see what your eyes are training you to see. You define successes by status and acknowledgement and by people celebrating you, but you never come out the hole.
Yeah. Hey, the hardest talent to watch is the talent that has the ability to make it, but doesn't because they want to do it their way. I want to do it my way. I want to make it my way. And I'm not going to look out to see what the options are or what other people and learn from other people. If I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it this way. And so that's what the fuck is, that's so hard to watch. And as us as entrepreneurs, a person, even me who have that stubborn energy as an entrepreneur, you get the biggest bruises. You get the biggest bruises. You get knocked around in the game because you're so fucking stubborn. Your ego says the win isn't a win if I didn't win my way. And we're so limited mentally. So how the fuck, that's like winning a lottery. That's like, so we got to understand that the world doesn't rise and fall. The sun doesn't set and rides on our asses. They don't nobody gives a fuck about us like that. If we want to participate in this thing called the world or commerce or e-commerce, then we have to engage in it in a manner that's a win-win for everyone participating, not just us. And that's what we're trying to do with this course and this class and this book, is to get us to break that piece about us so that we can look around and see, damn, okay, it's 20 ways to do this shit. And I'm fucking stubborn sitting here because I want to get to 510 Hope by going down 2nd Street. 2nd Street's closed. 2nd Street's closed. Well, I'm just going to sit here until they open 2nd Street. Okay, well, you're going to be sitting here because it's construction. When everybody already got here because they decided to hit that corner, hit that left, hit that another left, and now they're here. We gotta learn how to move in that manner.
Let me say, I'm gonna speak towards a personal testimony. This passion thing was a flaw of mine. I never forget when I finally lowered my passion and realized how much game people were trying to give me. How many seniors were telling me, how many cats who've been in the game way before me were trying to talk to me, and my passion would go, I'm gonna do it this way. And you don't realize how, instead of me learning to become a great detective of good advice, I was too busy filtering out anything that didn't go with what I thought should work. And when you learn to lead with curiosity over passion, learn to lead with being more strategical, processing it, being comfortable that it's going to be full of friction, pain, resistance, challenging, that these things are not bad things, these are actually good. Like, if you take away challenge, who wants, life would be boring. Imagine a video game that you always could play, you always win, and you know all the moves. Who plays that video game? Like, that's almost weird, right? And so the fact of the matter that those things to me are part of what makes life exciting, right? And so I remember being in that space, and I remember when it came down, it's almost like my brain grew another brain. And I was like, y'all been saying this the whole time? I literally couldn't hear them. What we're trying to explain to you is that these are things you have to work on. You don't just become less passionate. You're going to have to learn how to say, okay, if I'm getting passionate, okay, I can't do that. And then what do I put in this place so I don't become a victim of my own passion? And that means, okay, for example, I was watching T-Pain. I heard this little article. T-Pain was kind of offended when Usher said that him using the tools didn't validate him as a great performer, right? But I'm like, first of all, how deep are you in your art? Because I promise you, if you told Roger he wasn't shit, Roger would look at you like, I don't give a shit. This is how I want to express. If you told Jimi Hendrix, man, you ain't playing a good guitar the way the rest of us do, right? So I have to ask you, where's your mind at? How do you perceive? And sometimes if you don't have confidence, if somebody can hurt you because you don't have confidence, then keep practicing. That's where your confidence comes from. When you hang out with your peers, you're practicing, you engage in people, you gain confidence. I developed photography. When I first started shooting photography, if Vogue would have called me, well, no, my ego was big. I probably would have showed up and fucked up. But then once reality slapped me, I got put back down to the ground. If Vogue would have called me the first 8 years, I wouldn't even return the phone call. Why? Unless they say we want Joe shit, which is absolutely wrong, but is right for what we want to do, then that's possible. But I understood that the level of expertise to be at that level of the game and be celebrated, I wasn't ready yet because I hadn't practiced enough. And then as I started to practice, my confidence grew. And if they would call me my last 4 years, I'd be like, what y'all want? Let's do it. Because I had developed a confidence from my practice. But if you don't practice, then all you have is your ego telling you you're great. And when the ego gets challenged, it's like that famous Tyson thing. Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Your ego goes away when you get hit in the mouth. like literally, you realize that martial art you thought, or that bad dude you thought you was, if a dude hits you hard enough in the mouth, your brain goes, oh shit, I'm not bad as I thought I was. It's that simple. And that's how business will hit you in the mouth. Business is going to slap the shit out of you like an old school pimp who's been practicing that shit for a living. And when it slaps you, if you're not good at your shit, look, white people will whoop your ass if you don't practice. I sat at tables with white folks who they are quick to drop that degree on the table and then drop some assumptions behind it and drop some big words to validate their assumptions and then drop a conclusion that meets their personal needs. But because I practice, I cut all that shit up like it's salad. But if you don't practice, you see on the other side of the table numb, loss of words, forget, you literally feel victimized and feel like they abuse you and now you want to talk about racism. No, you're just not practicing. Practicing it, when I tell you I read an hour and a half a day, that's a form of my practice. When I say I practice so much because I'm qualifying myself to be even at this table. I refuse to come in front of black people just rattling off my assumptions and my feelings and my emotions. I am constantly trying to break everything I'm comfortable with to get as close as I can to the most verifiable version of the truth. That's what I'm working towards. In addition to that, I even said in this class, when you first joined this class, you may come in here next year, and because I understand that I believe in neuroplasticity, and I also believe in that I'm always evolving, don't be surprised if you come in this class 2 years from now, and you hear something different. Because I'm always evolving to be responsible to the people I'm trying to serve. Who am I trying to serve? You. I'm not here serving myself. See, when you have a job, you think leadership is leading. When you're an entrepreneur, you realize leadership is serving. And when you serve somebody, which is the highest honor somebody can ever give you, is to serve them. You have to be radically responsible of how you show up to serve others. And I can never make an excuse, I didn't serve you because anything else sucks to me.
I want to get on this. It might not be the best time, but fuck. Like, no, I'm gonna say, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Next one. Keep going. Says go to skip to the what humans. Next slide. What humans require.
What humans require in our ascent is purpose and realism.
There you go. There you go. Come on now.
Purpose, you could say, is like passion with boundaries.
There you go. Come on now.
Realism is detachment and perspective. When we are young, or when our cause is young, we feel so intensely. Passion, like our hormones, run strongest in youth, that it seems wrong to take it slow. This is just our impatience. This is our inability to see that burning ourselves out or blowing ourselves up isn't going to hurry the journey along.
So this is probably even deeper than we won't even have time to finish tonight. When you first start a business, you buy into these ideas of working hard. But see, you got to prepare for the reward is given to the person who has persistence for the long journey. It's not for the swift, it's for the person who has the ability to sustain himself. And so as you move on this journey, it's not about you working 16 hours, where in those 16 hours, if you do the math, you burn out a certain portion of those hours, and you really, 8 of those hours feel like 1 hour. So you really only work 9 hours, right? And in those 8 hours, you probably didn't even give me the full 8 hours. So really, you did 16 hours, you probably give me 5 hours or 6 hours, right? That's one. But two, you forget you're a human being. You think you're a machine or a computer. So you're in technology age, right? So you see computers running all the time. You see this new Apple computer. Now, if we were in the PC world, this might be easier to get. But we're in the Apple world. And in the Apple world, it seems like everything is just always running and always working, is always consistent. What you forget is you need absolute balance. You need balance of sleep, eating, exercising, learning, assessing, assumption development, introspection. You need all these tools. You need that balance. You need loved ones, friends, and family. These are things the human soul needs as balance.
You need human touch.
Human touch, exploration. These are things you need. We forsake so many of those things in the early stages, making ourselves actually weaker because we want to shorten this time it's going to take to get there. Not realizing that old stories that once the dog catches the car, what is he going to do with it? Even if you got there early, you couldn't even keep it because you didn't earn the right to be there. This is why lottery, this is why a lot of artists who receive a lot of money right away, they lose money really, really fast because a journey qualifies you to be in that position. And so when you take off on the journey to be a leader or an entrepreneur, realize the journey is the lesson. The friction creates the growth. But our passion, and we think by, and then I like the word purpose puts margin. And like you said, we're not saying no passion. We said passion domesticating passion, domestication, right? We're trying to get you to domesticate your passion. Meaning that what purpose says is, see, passion is only listen to yourself. Purpose is listening to the thing you're trying to serve.
Also, purpose, if passion and purpose feels different, some of it may look similar on the surface, but it feels different. Purpose is grounded. It's deep. Passion is not ungrounded. It's loose. It runs wild. So when you're purposeful, it like you said, it's bridled passion. It's bridled. It's what was the word you used? Domesticated. That allows you to detach from it because you can have a conversation, a logical conversation, a real conversation. You can go over the pros and cons, what's working, what's not working with clarity because you're not blinded by passion. That's what's important. And in terms of your growth and allowing you to grow and scale your business, you can look at things objectively. And if one of the things on the table is maybe this thing folds, maybe my business closes. When you can have that conversation with yourself instead of like, no, I can't let it close. My grandmother, my mother, this is my passion. I put everything into this. That means you cross the barriers, you cross the boundaries. Being able to say, not because you're detached from it, I'm still who I am. This business is over here. And if it's time if the decision is to close it, it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change me. It don't devalue who I am. It's just over. There was a time when there was a version of me that I was completely the opposite. I was fucking passionate. I was going to go down with my fucking ship. I was going to go down with it. Plus, good, because if I go down, then I'm too embarrassed for people to see me anyway because I failed. That was the mentality. I'm going to get rich or die trying. That was the mentality because it was baked into my system. But what it was, it became a more destructive path because you drill yourself down. You create a hole for yourself that if you ain't die, then you got to dig the fuck out of it. And so you have to learn to detach from, you're not your entity. You're not, like your entity has a serial number code or whatever the code, that's the entity. And once you take that passion out, you take the ego out, then you can look at it more objectively.
I mean, imagine a feedback loop when you detach. Imagine a feedback loop when you are attached, right? When you're attached, you're personalizing feedback. You're personalizing failure. You're personalizing when your employees rebel. You personalizing when people tell you internally as well as externally who supposedly share your passion when they tell you that you're wrong. Right? You almost fall into the right and wrong type of rhythm in addition to that. Let me add another one to it. The biggest word I see here is realism is detachment and perspective. Take anything in your house and go this close and hold it this close to your eye. Can you see all the details? You're too close. In order for you to see details, you have to move it back. And you go, oh, I can see the details. Same thing with your business. When you're passionate, you're here. When there's a purpose and you detach yourself, you engage in realism, you're here. Realism also is the separation of stories from facts. Realism is also understanding the form of thinking, the practice of optionality thinking. Realism is accepting the world for what it is, not what you want it to be, what you want it to be. Realism is cleaning up your assumptions. Your assumptions distorts reality. Realism is working on cognitive distortions. Like we talked about, if you don't believe in radical responsibility, then you believe in this idea of should. Should implies that you understand things you can't see. You say it should be this way. It shouldn't happen. It should have this. It should have that. That's a cognitive distortion. You can't even. It's realism is when you start saying, then why did it just happen? Leading with curiosity, not should, or not adding, or this meaning making machine where something happens and you say, I know what happened. That was just racism. What do you mean it was just racism? Oh, police just don't like us. All police. Think about this. You wouldn't, if I go up to you right now and said, oh, you're a black woman, and I just judge you by the standard of all black women, you'd be like, wait, we have variations. So when you say police, so they're all the same? There's no variation? And there's a variation. Now how do we solve the problem with this weird variation? Because if we talk about a solution, are we talking about a solution, or are we just talking about emotional internal comfort? Yeah, you guys get where I'm going with this one? Let's read this last slide, then I'm going to open up the questions, then we're going to go home. So this last slide.
Passion is about, I am so passionate about won't do won't.
Won't do won't. You know what I'm saying? For East Coast, won't do won't is like, so y'all don't understand, because I know your assumption, like, what the fuck was that? What it means is everything else that has to follow that. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the other is a new way of saying it. But back in our days, it was like the whoop, 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 whoop. You know what I'm saying? So
that joint in Philly, that joint.
Keep going.
I must do.
Okay, so purpose is.
I'm sorry.
So the difference between
Purpose
passion and passion is about I am so passionate about. But purpose is.
Purpose is 2 and 4. I must do this.
4. R2.
I was put here to accomplish this.
4. R2.
I am willing to endure
4.
this for the sake of this.
Huge difference. But you see how it's helping you understand the role you have to play, but it's not limiting you to how you show. It's not shaping how you show up to the role. Mm-hmm. See, passion is saying it's almost like blinding to you. Purpose is, this is a goal that my heart is driven towards, but you still got to figure out how to get there. Mm-hmm. The purpose doesn't challenge strategy, critical thinking, realism, emotional intelligence, any form of insight, where passion removes all that. Totally removes that. Just read the last paragraph and then let Court in with the question.
Actually, purpose de-emphasizes the I. Purpose is about pursuing something outside of yourself as opposed to pleasuring yourself.
Yeah, okay, so for those of you at home that little freaky, we didn't mean that.
Out the gutter.
Yeah, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean that.
Get your
but
head out the gutter.
what we're suggesting is that when you move in the space of I, there's no reason for you to challenge the assumptions or grow past you. When you move for somebody else, you're always evaluating yourself. When you serve something greater than yourself, it helps you become humble to yourself and submit to whatever changes are necessary to evolve to the next level. Passion says, I am all things start and end with me, and that's all I need to think about. Corey, you got anything to say on that one?
Nope.
Any Q&A online? Go ahead, you hit the question. You guys, like we're gonna tell you can ask questions. Well, no, we don't want to hear your question, Shabisha. No, you don't. You probably because they won't see you. So yeah, come on up there. Hey, stop putting that beauty filter on her every time because she's, oh, there's no beauty filter. That's just how she looks. My bad. Go ahead.
I have two questions. So the first one is I didn't fully get the difference between fear and assumptions, or the interplay between fear and assumptions that you were explaining in the tone. I
So
missed
without
it
assumptions,
somehow.
there's nothing. Let's
Yeah.
start with there. So fear can exist if there's nothing,
Okay.
right? Without assumptions, you're almost mentally vegetable. Okay, is the microphone on? Okay, so without assumptions, when that baby reaches up and latches on the breast on day one, there's an assumption that when I suck this breast, there's something I'm going to receive in return, right? If the child did not know that assumption existed, or that child was removed from that child there's a chance you could put a fake object in that space, and that child will take on that same response because it's assuming certain things are in place.
Pacifier.
Right, pacifier. There's assumptions there, right? What I'm arguing is this. Before there is fear,
There's
you have to assume something.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, there's nothing to apply the fear to.
Gotcha.
Assumptions is at the very, once again, you are a reflex of your assumptions.
Yeah.
Your assumptions come from your past experiences. This is why it's hard to give a life new choices, a fresh start.
Yeah.
Because often you're tiptoeing into this fresh start or this new idea with past assumptions.
Second question is around being able to notice assumptions. Because the goal is to be able to be in the moment with them, right? Not to have to go to hindsight.
No, it's okay to do. Okay, so let me show you how they work.
Okay.
You're reading a book about something, and you
Yeah.
go, "Oh, I always thought it was this way," or "Damn, I never thought about it that way," or "Damn, this is crazy," or "Fuck, I think I disagree." Or, is it right though? But I kind of disagree though. Fuck, or you go somewhere, you travel, you be like, "What? Y'all see what happened?" They be like, "What? It's just the guy just did this." You're like, "What?" Or Ghana, I'm walking down the street, and the guy just, "Hey, let's hold hands." I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute, hold on, Pimp, you want to do what?" Well, hold hands. My palm's sweating, right? I know he's thinking, why is this dude palm sweating, right? But to me, it's like, that don't mean what it means here, right? Or I go to a cafe and I got big calves, you understand me? Just part of the consequences of being me. But point is this, I got big calves, and I'm talking to this dude standing up, and this other dude started rubbing my calves, and I pause, and I'm like,
I'm sorry.
personal space, and this man's rubbing my calves.
Yeah, no.
But the reason, here's the thing, but what happened was you realize, oh, so our interaction with human beings, this is not universal. None of this shit is universal. Most of the shit we do as humans that we think is the law of the land, a lot of it is a law of our oppression.
Because the way that I was thinking about it was like, I wonder if I do insights. There's a strategy that I'm saying, hey, here's where I see the opportunities based on these insights. If I want to be able to look at that and be like, what assumptions do I have in there that I feel like maybe I need to go back and rethink that? So how do I, or am I misapplying how you would use assumptions in that case? Because I want to be able to use it as a tool for what I'm doing right now.
So, okay, so for example, I think one of the ways my mentor used to do it with me, what is it you absolutely know and you don't know, right? And everything else is assumptions. What do you absolutely know? So somebody says, yeah, so I always do this and this always works. Do I know that for sure?
Yeah.
Am I going to fill in that blank with assumption? We fill in blanks with assumptions all the time.
Yeah.
Or somebody suggests something for me. Hey, this is the best solution for you. I realize that's one person giving me advice. Now I want to hear where you pulling that data from and how you building your conclusion. And is it based upon a group of insights and some formula or some methodology? Or is it coming from a space of just pure assumptions being transferred from one person to the other, which you see in our community happens all the time?
So if I were to apply that, then I would say, if I understand narrative thinking and I understand bias and blind spots and I understand, I don't know, something else, I would apply those things and say, is any of this showing up in what I'm saying? Like would I be using, I may be getting way too granular with this, but would I be using, in my mind, I would run that through my filter. So normally I look at factfulness a lot, because for me, that's a place that's really helpful to see, like, am I overreaching? Like, if I re-look at that, would I say this way, or is there another way for me to think about this? So in my mind, I would be checking what I think I saw against sort of those guardrails to be able to say, I might be pushing that too far. Maybe that's too much of a certain narrative that I got hooked in. I need to go back and look at that. So that's the way that I would apply checking for assumptions. Is that?
No, I think I use it for problem solving. I don't use it all the time. There's times I just let that shit ride. I don't give a shit.
Okay.
I let people talk to me with a whole bunch of assumptions all the time. I hear them better now than I did when I first started. When I first started, I had to really concentrate. Oh, that's assumption, right? Now I'm seasoned. I'm faster. I want to get a lot better. And assumptions, they can become more and more complex. So, for example, if I told you, I was telling the court this one earlier, if I said, hey, Tone, I know you sent me to handle the business. Everything went exactly as planned. That's full of assumptions. I gave him no details. And I just told him, trust me. Right? So now, if I'm a business person, this is when y'all see these, like y'all see a boss type person who's able to analyze, but like, that's some bullshit. They're reading you through assumptions. And so when he says everything went planned, I might say, court, do me a favor. Go out and find out what exactly he did. I need all those measurables. Let me share another assumption. You know what? I'm thinking if you do at least 100 times or 50 times, that should be good enough. You know how much of an assumption that is? What is 100? Why is 100 the number that we landed on? Because psychologically, our mind likes those completed numbers, right? But if you said to me, it could be anywhere between 96 and 94.5, 0.5 meaning that as you engage, you can start to see an impact. So it's 96, 94.5. That lets me know that I'm working with somebody who's dealing with this problem from a different perspective. I may still ask questions like, what does that mean? Or how do you get there so I can own it for myself? Because part of me engaging in something is that if court says, hey, Nana, why did you make that choice? Well, I actually researched it. He gave me something to clue me in. So I took ownership. So when I go to court and say I did something, I have ownership of the decision I made. But if I go back to court and say, well, he said it works like 90 to 100% of the time, he was running game on me.
It's the story.
He just so that passionate person we just been reading about this whole time,
Got it.
that person's running game at you because remember, they know how to talk just in that right space and use all that buzzwords and language to get people to give them money, support. How much money have we got as black people from white people and foundations who say they want to help the black community? And that person who we knew was running game, but when he's in that room, they ran they had this conversation that was in this passionate space. The white people who wanted to help was like, well, I'm caught up in the moment, so I only can hear so much. And they say, okay, I'm going to give you, in some case, somebody in Oakland received $200,000 when George Floyd died. No, it was $200,000 or $400,000. This person ain't never did nothing impressive in our community. Never. I'm using the word never on top of motherfucking never. And they got the money dropped on them because they went to that person at the right time, caught them with that passion. But if the person who was in charge of the money understood the art of assumptions, they would have heard all the flaws in their approach.
It's the listen. Okay.
All their flaws. You'll
following.
know when people are trying to mask what they don't know.
Gotcha.
In our community, we have to be able to mine the best talent and we have a lot of great talent. So the black community has so much untapped resources as far as great minds and great capabilities that have the same color skin we got. But in order to gauge that minding, you're going to have to be able to see through the assumptions.
Got it.
I fired somebody from our company because I was reading their assumptions. They were lying to me because I would hear these spaces where they would leave it wide open, and then I would go back and investigate because they didn't know they was telling me to go investigate. But when they told me something, I heard there was assumptions being applied. These things they were just assuming I was going to accept. And I go, well, where did you go? What time were you there? Who did you meet when you were there? Oh, what did it look like? Oh, so you wasn't there, huh? Oh, so now we're gonna bring. So now you did on the internet. Okay, so we was on the internet. What sites did you go to? Oh, okay. So now we all the way down to you didn't do shit. You just used memory and your good handwriting, and you gave me this report, and you asked me for $20,000. See what assumptions does?
I see.
And then what happens is now I didn't put my neck on the line with my client going, hey, this is the gospel truth. I paid $20,000, which is assumption that $20,000 meant something as far as value. And this report, you should not go bet your resources on. So now I pass this poisonous ass assumption to the next person. You see the cold-blooded fucking game?
I do. This is my last thing. I was sitting there listening to you guys, and I was like, you know, it's really easy to almost apply this moral right-wrong lens to a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that is definitely and I noticed it because I was quick to do it in a lot of cases, like I'm going to be better than that. But today was super helpful just to share that with you guys because I kept saying, well, why am I not bringing the stuff that I really want to do so that there's like something useful that can come out of this instead of sitting back and hearing you guys say don't do that and then making it right or wrong.
Right.
You're missing the point.
Yes.
So I don't know why I wanted to share that. I guess it's just my own growth and I'm excited about like
That's tight.
I
That's
understand
tight.
the difference because so much it's like, okay, well, how do I not do that? And I'm like, well, that's not really the point. You don't not do it by practicing doing it and getting better. It's not about if you did it right or wrong, because you're going to do it wrong. So this is just dope. So thank y'all.
Right on. I want to close the class with this. I'm about to get in some trouble, but you know what? I ain't never gave a shit. Recently at the lake, there was a shooting at Juneteenth.
That's what I was going to talk about.
And it'd be different if it's the only shooting. I don't think I really care about it. I mean, I care, but I wouldn't talk about it in this business course. Because business course, I can't solve all problems, but I'm looking at the impact of how business shapes our whole reality, and that what responsibilities that puts on our shoulders as black business people, and for Latino folks and Latina folks, same thing for you, and for our Asian folks, same thing for you. But there's something I want to bring to your attention because of this chapter we just finished, and is a prime example. I know we want to help, and we should. But help is a process. Help is a level of realism that's going to be difficult and uncomfortable. There needs to be a whole bunch of interviews before you start helping. There needs to be a clear strategy on how you're going to approach it. And that strategy should be based upon some analysis of a healthy methodology. But when you're passionate, you'll call everybody into the room and say, let's work together. And when you're passionate, you want to get to the solution through some stages of public parties, public events, going and burning candles. And don't get me wrong, mourning is one thing, right? But if we talk about helping our people, or if helping your people is part of your purpose, it's complex. It's really fucking complex. Our people suffer from poverty. Our people suffer from not feeling valued by a larger society. Our people suffer from not feeling safe. When you don't feel safe from the higher system, you join lower systems for safety, gangs, groups of people who may not have your best interest in mind, but they keep you safe. I want what some people plan on doing to happen. And in hindsight, I might not be able to talk to you because you're in a passionate state of mind. But please know that when the event blows up on you, because it will, because when you bring a whole bunch of passionate people in one room to talk about helping black people, you want to talk about chaos. You've never seen such chaos. And I'm saying this because I'm a 30-year veteran of being pro-black. And me being a 30-year veteran, I've been in a lot of those let's all come together rooms. And it becomes all a room full of shit. Recruiting people is having something to plug them into that they could be evaluated, qualified for, and then given a pattern for success. Recruiting people is not allowing a whole bunch of people to walk into a room with different emotional angles and different disciplines and say, hey, what do you think we should do? Even if the individuals you're calling to the room are considered professionals. Because some professionals are extremely passionate. I urge all of those of you who care about what happened at the lake, because it's not the first time. I think it's the third major shooting at the lake. Major shooting, not a couple shots. We're talking about major shooting, dumping. In addition to that, there's been a lot of insanity happening because of COVID poverty. Our people are suffering. What I urge you to do is slow down, take on the personal responsibility of exploring solutions, and then recruit the people that you see fit that can assist you in achieving your support. 2, you will not be, kids I want to say, Captain Saver, you know who. You can't save everybody. Know that there's no Superman in this game. You will have a responsibility. 3, our problem is deeply rooted in so many things tied to self-hatred and what we don't know. So I want everybody to not remove your passion to help, domesticate it, put some guardrails around it, give it some direction, empower it. Otherwise, you're going to do everything we just read about, which is I don't care about all that facts. We just got to help people. If y'all remember when George Floyd went down and why Oakland was going crazy, I don't know, because we overpersonalized. That happened, like we was tearing up the city of Oakland for what happened in, was it Minnesota? We tore the city of Oakland. I just want to be very clear of that. We ran money out the city of Oakland. I just want to be very clear of that. We busted windows and services that we needed. I just want to be very, we attacked black businesses. Attila J got slammed in the name of something that happened in Minnesota, but that's a separate conversation. But let me say this, I remember those speeches, and I remember the day of George Floyd's death, and I heard that the passion coming through. If you ain't with this, if you ain't going to do this tomorrow, then just cancel me off your line. If you ain't out here doing the work that needs to be done, right? I heard people get on stage and give these dope ass speeches. What we need to do, what we need. People are like, oh my God, it's going to change my life. A lot of those people, as soon as that shit was over, went right back to what they were doing before. There was a club at Liege. They was partying. They was chasing their chicks. They were going to the whatever festival. They were just doing everything besides the work that needs to be done or the investigation of what needs to be done. If you want to help black people, take this shit serious. Don't, and I understand if you get started with passion, just know you can't stay there. And when you see all that passion starting to surround the movement, that's usually not the movement. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with disruption. I don't have a problem with burning down businesses. That's a small, minor response. But there is a difference between strategical response or necessary response or we're kind of caught in a routine response. And so I just wanted to hit that.
Hey, let me hit something too. I've been burning. I call it sucker shit. It's sucker shit. That's what I want to hit, is that we keep that same energy from the George Floyd, right? There's a George Floyd situation that happened not just months ago. The sucker shit to me that was burning was that as soon as the shooting happened that same night, the viral text or document or whatever that went out all on Instagram was from the group who put it together. And they said, hey, we were on this side of the lake. We're not attached to whatever happened. So that wasn't us, y'all. So a black man got killed. And that's the shit you gonna say? That goes viral? Not we stand behind, we support what happened, we're so sorry what happened. The group now wants to separate which part of the lake they were on for the event. Like, do we really value black lives like that? Where's the black lives shit at now? Y'all don't even say we from East, West Oakland. You want to separate which side of the lake you was on. That's sucker shit. That's sucker shit. Because as the business or group or entity that put that together, their first knee-jerk reaction was like, ooh, I don't want the world to know that shooting on that part of the lake had anything to do with me, so we're going to defend ourselves from it and isolate what happened over there. And that's some sucker shit. So understand, as a business, that can come back to hurt you. That can come back to hurt you, because when tensions calm down and people look back at hindsight and be like, wait a minute, that was some sucker shit you did over a black man. And then there's more sucker shit that's happening that I won't go into. But when he gave the homework, when you look around and see what radical responsibility people are taking in businesses and things of that nature, that's a good test. That's a good thing to watch. A business not take radical responsibility for something that happened yards away from them because they didn't want to be attached to it, when their event was based on black people being liberated and black joy and black happiness, Juneteenth. So that's my shit. And like, I'm gonna call it quits, because I'm gonna keep.
Yeah, and let me say this real quick. When I heard every time I hear about any black person dying, first of all, don't buy into a religion that, see, it's religious if I tell you that if a black person has a higher chance of dying from a 3-mile radius than being killed by a cop, but you tell me to focus all my energy on a cop, that's kind of religious. My assumption says that it's all valid. Different degrees, but it's all valid. Police brutality is valid because it does have a chain reaction. But the perception of police brutality is also valid, because the perception is just, let's not assume anything. But if you start to remove the assumptions, it's an interesting conversation that might make you uncomfortable. But when you remove the assumptions, it's actually very liberating, because you feel like, oh shit, I'm feeling like I'm starting to have an answer. But in addition to that, when black lives die on the streets, as an older black male, I take radical responsibility.
Yes.
I don't sit there and talk about, oh, they look.
We own this shit.
We own this shit. And if we're gonna make this shit better, when I decide some days I don't want to teach class because I'm tired, I don't feel like putting it in today because, you know what, sometimes I just get tired. All I really need to remind myself is my community's dying. I got work to do. This is when the purpose overrides my personal space. And so when I heard about that man down on the streets, I was like, yo, we got to get our community back. When I say community back, is that our babies are killing themselves because we didn't give them the framework to not kill themselves. And so at the end of the day, I don't really want to talk about the white man, because the white man is supposed to do whatever the fuck he does moving forward is what he's supposed to do. If there is somebody supposed to be doing it, or if there isn't somebody doing it, or even whatever it is, I can let that go. What I do know is that there's no perfect strategy. And the only reason anybody else's strategy is working because I'm not exercising my strategy. And so at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to build my strategy and then spread and encourage others to build even if their strategies are opposite from mine. Because there ain't no such thing as a perfect fucking strategy. But as we all work on a solution, this is what the way things work is sometimes, we might think about all these small people working together, but one small change, like viral, one small change of hitting the right thing at the right time can have crazy impact. But you got to go to work. That's why Hope is here. Hope, I'm trying to hit the nation with, hey, black folks, this is our responsibility. We got to take white people out of the equation. I understand how we got here, and maybe in the beginning you might need that conversation. But those of us who are mature in the game, we got to start talking about radical responsibility. We have to start separating the story from the facts, and we have to get to the point that we understand the power of our assumptions and our people assumptions. Even when you're working against white people, systemic racism only works if we accept certain assumptions. When they defunded our schools, we assume that once you take away the money, it should automatically fall. We assume when Black Wall Street got attacked, it automatically collapsed. Like the people just say, ain't no reason to try this ever again. Once you go past that assumption and remove that assumption, like, I assume that. How do I know that? You realize just because they took away their money, didn't mean we can't exchange our energy for their money. If every intelligent black person you knew participated in one school you knew, that school would no longer be that school. You guys get where I'm going with this? Look, next week, Tone Vic, come up here real quick. So I know your face. Come on up real quick. Next week, Tone's going to do the exercise of rooting out the homework. And the homework is two things, once again, observation of radical responsibility and why you're struggling with it. And two, the other one's going to be facts separated from stories. Tone, Vic, and Charlize is going to be heading that course.
Friday.
Tone is, hey, look, man, if you don't have fun with Tone, we tease him all the time because we love him, and he's like a joy to our heart.
Tripping. If you don't have fun with Tone, you tripping.
You really tripping because, okay, I'm not gonna go there because I'm trying to keep it for our Christian friends. I don't want them messed up where they go to church tomorrow morning and it's Friday, or Thursday. But the point is this: he's a dope brother. This Friday, chime in, and let's talk about your challenges. Now, when they finish, I want them to upload challenges that were raised to the top, and we'll start not next week, the week after next. Next week's a dead week. The week after next, when we come back, we'll jump into some of those challenges. I promise you, when you finally plant these tools and get them working inside your brain, I promise you're going to change. You're going to be a different person moving forward. And that's the goal of Hope, is to make us doper, change, and evolve. So with that being said, Tone.
Peace. He think his voice hella deep, but
I see you when I see you. Friday, 6 p.m.
when he get home, he be like, hey, everybody.
Have a good night, y'all. Peace.